dust of the veldt where the wind does moan. We've carved out a life in the soil and stone. They call us names, but we stand up tall. For faith and family, we've weathered it all. Raise the flag high, let the colors fly. With our hands we've built under God's own sky. No insult can break what's forged in our soul. Africa and her heart steadfast and whole. They say we're dogs, they say we're small, but we've built empires and answered the call. With the earth in our palms and the sun on our backs, we march to the rhythm of unbroken tracks. Through the storms and strife we hold the line. The roots run deep like the old oak spine. Pride in our spirit, love in our veins. The faith of our fathers forever remains. Raise the flag high, let the colors fly. With our hands we've built under God's own sky. No insult can break what's forged in our soul. Africa and her heart steadfast and whole. Through the years and miles we've walked this road, bearing the burdens, carrying the load. But the light of our fire, it will never fade. For the strength of our people will never be swayed.
Sunsets and skies so blue, mountains whisper stories of dreams so true. From oceans roaring wild to valleys deep, a heartbeat of a nation that will not sleep. Save South Africa, rise above the storm. Hands together strong, a new world is born. Beauty in our hearts, let it light the way. Evil cannot reign when we seize the day. The people sing louder than shadows can scream. Together we're stronger than the wicked scheme. The soil holds our history, roots run so long. A melody of freedom, we're singing strong. They may curse the land with lies they weave, but we hold the truth in what we believe. Their crowns may crumble, their thrones may fall, for the power is the people's above it all. Save South Africa, rise above the storm. Hands together strong, a new world is born. Beauty in our hearts, let it light the way. Evil cannot reign when we seize the day. People sing louder than shadows can scream. Together we're stronger than the wicked scheme. The people sing louder than shadows can scream. Together we're stronger than the wicked scheme. The people sing louder than the shadows can scream. Together we're stronger than the wicked scheme. The soil holds our history, roots run so long. A melody of freedom, we're singing strong. They may curse the land with lies, they weave their weave. But we hold the truth in what we believe. Their crowns may crumble, their thrones may fall. For the power is the people above it all. We know it all.
Good evening, America. Unless you're watching from California, then maybe not so good. Just kidding. Sort of, it's your favorite president, some say the best ever. And tonight, I've got a few things to say. So grab your popcorn, turn off the fake news, and let's talk about what's really going on. It's going to be good, really good.
I mean, it's just insane. Oh, it's been 3 weeks. Okay, get a grip. I mean, honestly, people have no idea what's involved here. A thorough background investigation must be completed to prove who you are, where you're from, what you're saying is true. That has to take place. There's an administrative process that has to take place. Interviews have to be conducted. Medical screening has to be done. All this stuff takes time.
Marvin Devine. I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming, it's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me with somebody living better. I'm trying to tell you that me just doing me gon' have you jealous.
Hey, welcome back, folks. It's Friends and Family Only Friday, and things are striking all over the place. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to have you join me once again here on this Friday, June 27th, 2025. We are almost 50% of the way through this calendar year. Can you believe it's gone that fast? Well, I can tell you it's been pretty exciting. Welcome to the 501 people currently here, but to the 300 of you who have failed to push the like button, get with the program.
That was easy.
Hit the like button. All right, let's get to it. Lots of news to talk about today. As always, folks, man, what a crazy, crazy day. If you haven't been catching any updates or getting any notifications, I have published this morning, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 videos already, prepared videos, some of them doing very well, including the first one I did earlier this morning. That one's at 25,000 in just over 2 hours. So that's a good. It's dropping off a little bit now. So don't miss out. You want to go check those videos out. Also want to thank everybody who watch my Zimbabwe lecture that I did at the War College a few years ago. That is up to almost 60,000 views now, 58,200, and 500 new subscribers. I'm very grateful for that. New people find the channel. I will do more of those. Obviously, I can't go back in time and be clean shaven and weigh 20 pounds less and be in the Army anymore, but I can do more of those insightful videos about events. In fact, I've got a couple of them that I need to put together. So yeah, let me go ahead and talk about that. I'm trying to think how I want to do this, though, because I don't have a lecture hall, so I don't want to sit here in front of the camera, but I'll work on that. I've got some other presentations I've done in the past that lectures I've done. I can recreate them. So anyway, all right, love the Zen. Please do more. Yes, Nella, I'll try to do more. That one's paid off very handsomely, 60,000 views and 500 subscribers from 60,000 views. That's amazing. That's pretty rare. By comparison, the one I've done this morning on South Africa, that has 18 new subscribers now. I only had one earlier, so that's good, but with 25,000 views. So that has 25,000 views. I've gained 18,000 subscribers. The Zimbabwe video has 58,000. I've gained 500. That's pretty amazing. Yeah, thank you. Well, that's kind of how I am. Very informative. All right, cool beans, folks. Let's get to the news. A few things to cover today. Then I'll get back to the chat. First off, I will not yield to threats. And then, of course, Cyril Ramaphosa issues a threat to John Steenhuisen. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, he issued a threat to John Steenhuisen. Yeah, he sure did. He threatened the leader of the Democratic Alliance. Yeah. So, and this is what he said. Let it be clear that the president shall not yield to threats and ultimatums. Okay, that's fair. Especially coming from members of the executive that he has the prerogative to appoint in accordance with the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. Ouch! Shots fired, ladies and gentlemen. Ramaphosa has threatened Steenhuisen that he's going to fire him. That is a clear attempt to silence John Steenhuisen. To be fair, Steenhuisen's ultimatum was a bit silly and risked his political career, and now I think he realizes how much hot water he's in. Ramaphosa, President Palapala there, is not exactly on solid ground himself, but he's right in that context. I will not yield to threats, Ramaphosa says. Thank you, Anne-Marie Schultz, for your membership. Thank you for that. Right. Speaking in Parliament shortly after the announcement of Whitfield's axing, Steenhuisen warned that Ramaphosa failed to do so, the ANC will inflict grave consequences on South Africa. Then he threatened that they had to remove the corruption-accused ministers that the ANC has in office. And here is the message from the president, from the desk of the president of South Africa. Oh, that's not it. That's the wrong one. Sorry. That's a nothing. That's a nothing burger. That was not the message. I wonder where that message went. Interesting. Well, Minister of Foreign Relations, the Director of International Relations and Cooperation, DIRCO. Yeah, Ronnie Lamola has claimed that the United States apologized to South Africa. Sorry. That calls for an appearance out of his little Hazenhole. Yeah, the bugger off bunny, Ronnie Lamola. Thank you for the super chat, Emerencia. So the bell's not working. There you go. Yeah, he claims that the United States apologized for not coming to the Sherpa conference at Sun City. So instead of going on holiday in Sun City, the United States participated in the NATO summit and didn't have the people available. So he claims it was an apology. We take that as an apology after they sent a letter. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what the United States did was a professional courtesy. We sent a professional courtesy to the government of South Africa, who was hosting the event, saying we're unable to attend because the people that we would send will be at the NATO summit. And obviously, that takes precedence, our mutual defense pact, over your silly Sherpa meeting. That wasn't in the letter. That's what I added. But he says, we take that as an apology. How do you take that letter as an apology? It's not an apology. This is embarrassing. Do they think that this stuff doesn't find its way to the shores of America? People don't see this stuff. They don't watch what the events. We have an embassy in South Africa. It's their job to keep Washington informed of stupid stuff like this. Deputy ministers among the MPs reprimanded for late disclosure of financial interest. So members of parliament are failing to disclose their financial interests. Say it ain't so. Of course it's so. It's South Africa. What would you expect? Except our turn to eat corruption. National Assembly Speaker Toko Dzidza reprimanded 8 members of parliament on Thursday for failure to declare their financial interest on time, among them 3 deputy ministers. This after the National Assembly adopted the Joint Committee on Ethics and Members' Interests report, which was proposed a 10,000 rand fine. Wow. Interesting. Parliament's Joint Committee on Ethics and Members' Interests found Planning, Monitoring, Evaluation Minister Maropene Ramakopa, Deputy Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Andreas Snell, Deputy Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Sile Zikalala, Deputy Transport Minister Mkoleko Khalengwa in breach of their ethics code for failure to declare their financial interest to Parliament on time. They also found findings against African National Congress members of Parliament Luki Delenganga, Mzoli Marara, Matsesheho Mofokeng, Patrick Mabilo, and MK Party MP and spokesperson Nalumo Ndela, all guilty of not submitting their financial statements. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, well, at least they submitted them. Ladies and gentlemen, I had an article published in the Daily Friend that was published on the 24th. I didn't find out till last night. They published it, and this is the article. Here's the link if you want to check it out and drive viewership to their site. Where's my channel at? Where are we at here? Sorry, I suddenly do not see my channel. Okay, hang on. Where the heck is it at? There we go. Sorry. All right, so here's the link to that if you want to check it out, the Daily Friend article. I became an author, contributing author at the Daily Friend, last year before last, at the insistence of one of my viewers. And I'm glad that my viewer said that. It's a nice outlet for me to get published formally. So, Ramaphosa in South African media in denial over Oval Office visit. It's difficult to focus on all the truly embarrassing moments for President Ramaphosa and his confused, unable to read the room team that went to the Oval Office to meet with President Trump in May of 2025. Contrary to the opinion of Jacob Zuma, Julius Malema, and a host of other malcontents and legacy South African media, their trip was indeed necessary. South Africa has repeatedly insulted and acted against the interests of the United States, its friends, partners, and allies for well over 2 decades. On the rare occasions when a South African politician or journalist is willing to admit as much, the typical subordinate clause to their response is, "But South Africa is a sovereign state." While that's true, the United States is also a sovereign nation, one that predates South Africa by at least 124 years. Contrary to the unsubstantiated myth spread like sea salt on every meal, Trump does not get his marching orders from Elon Musk and did not issue his executive order because Musk influences him. Daily, nearly 20 federal intelligence agencies produce prescient intelligence products for the President of the United States. He does not rely exclusively upon open sources or Elon Musk to reach conclusions or stay informed. Trump issued his executive order not in response to an ongoing white genocide, but rather to get out in front of and avoid one, and in response to unjust racial discrimination against South Africa's racial minorities. The issues that have angered Washington long predate Trump, going all the way back to the Rome Statute and refusal of Pretoria to sign an Article 98 waiver in 2002 to protect U.S. troops. The concerns and issues were long-standing and not trivial. The U.S. has given South Africa nearly $500 million a year for decades, relieving the death and misery toll of HIV, and granted Pretoria duty-free access to the U.S. market for 25 years with no reciprocity, given South Africa's Aspen Pharma hundreds of millions of dollars to produce vaccines, and sponsored World Bank, IMF, and African Development Bank loans and grants. South Africa has been a very ungrateful and disrespectful recipient of America's largesse. The ANC has acted arrogantly and dismissively towards its largest donor and most important trading partner. Trump has already ended 10 billion rand in annual aid to South Africa. This has crippled HIV surveillance programs, left many with no antiretrovirals, and in large measure has stopped all serious medical and scientific research at South Africa's captured universities. The ANC's arrogance and cheek led a group of bipartisan U.S. lawmakers to introduce a bill in the House of Representatives in February of 2024 during the Biden administration to reevaluate the strategic partnership or relationship, with the goal of sanctioning ANC officials. From the outset, when President Trump issued his executive order on February 7, 2025, South African politicians and media falsely claimed he was misinformed about what was occurring in South Africa. When that lie failed to resonate properly, they repeated the sovereignty line. Then came the flat-out denials and eventually the attacks on Trump for spreading misinformation about a white genocide. Naturally, none of that is true. The effort to obscure reality did not fool objective thinkers, but it certainly muddied the waters very successfully. After announcing reciprocal tariffs on most countries around the world, including a 31% tariff for South Africa, President Trump then paused the high tariff rate for 90 days to give countries a chance to negotiate bilateral trade deals with Washington. Rather than act as Japan and South Korea did, sending high-level trade representatives to meet with American officials only hours after the tariff announcement, South Africa never sent anyone. After Pretoria's embarrassing former ambassador Ibrahim Rasool was sent packing, South Africa did not send a new one. Ramaphosa did announce Mcebisi Jonas as a special envoy, but as of this writing, the 16th of June, he has yet to depart Cape Town for Washington. With less than 3 weeks remaining to negotiate lower tariffs on South African exports, Ramaphosa has still not sent anyone to negotiate with Trump's administration. Hence the need for Cyril's trip to meet with Trump. But Ramaphosa and his crew cannot read the room. They thought they would go to the States and set Trump straight, choosing the paths of denial, obfuscation, and even lecturing the President of the United States in the Oval Office. What a sad spectacle, and further evidence that South Africa has dismal, poorly informed leaders. While an objective observer will admit that what we all witnessed in the Oval Office was a disaster for South Africa, and that Trump was more than gracious and wound up very annoyed at Ramaphosa's tardy arrival and his subsequent comments, a few moments truly stand out. The first was when a South African reporter asked President Trump if he still believed there was a white genocide in South Africa. Trump's answer surprised many in his careful, diplomatic response to not embarrass his guests. Trump said, "I'm not convinced of that." Yet virtually every media outlet falsely claimed he said there was a white genocide. Trump never said that in the Oval Office meeting. The next unforgettable moment was when Annika Larsen asked Trump, "What will it take for President Ramaphosa to convince you there's no white genocide in South Africa?" Ramaphosa rudely interrupted President Trump, saying he would answer the question that was directed at Trump. Then South Africa's president lectured his host about listening to South African voices. Ramaphosa then introduced his white agricultural minister, not his minister, but his white minister. Imagine for a moment if Trump did the same in introducing a member of his cabinet. It's truly shocking that no media even bothered to mention this unacceptable race peddling. COSATU President Zingwaizi Losi inadvertently and embarrassingly admitted that South Africa was a violent country. something the ANC has repeatedly denied or downplayed for years. But the most telling moment of the South African debacle was when President Trump had the lights turned down. Natalie, dim the lights. While viewing the September 2020 Normandy Cross protest after the Raffertys were murdered on a farm attack, Ramaphosa stated, "Have they told you where this is? I've never seen this." To which Trump replied, "It's in South Africa." Rather than be embarrassed by Ramaphosa's ludicrous statement, South African media glommed onto the fact that Trump incorrectly called the crosses grave mounds, completely ignoring that they represent hundreds of white South Africans brutally tortured and murdered on farms. Most media erroneously called the event an ambush, conveniently forgetting that South Africa requested the meeting, and the topic of racial oppression was not a state secret. Trump made it clear in his executive order in February entitled Addressing Egregious Actions of the Republic of South Africa. How any South African could enter that room and not expect to be confronted with about unjust racial discrimination is beyond silly to claim. Far from seeking to embarrass his guests, Trump's decision not to include any of the numerous video clips of Ramaphosa over the past 6 years personally insulting Trump on camera and excluding recent video footage of ANC members trashing the United States was quite magnanimous of Trump. President Trump only publicly aired video clips of former ANC members like Julius Malema and Jacob Zuma calling for the murder of white South Africans, not Ramaphosa's misdeeds. If Trump wanted to ambush Ramaphosa, it would have been far more embarrassing video footage. Since his return to South Africa, President Ramaphosa's cavalier attitude to the suffering of South Africans, his continued denial of his country's laws oppressing racial minorities, and his unsubstantiated claims that he reset the relationship with Washington have only made matters worse. Unless Pretoria pulls a rabbit out of a hat at the June 2025 G7 summit in Canada, which is now over, South Africa will soon face a 31% tariff, and we'll see jobs evaporate across the country as exports to America become prohibitively expensive and uncompetitive. There you go, folks. That's my daily friend report. Hope that was interesting to you. Right. I have an update for you, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who participated and were able to help out, and everyone who had the sympathy and the empathy for the situation is much appreciated. But for those who were able to help out and donate money when we were moved to help little Zoe Olivari, little Zoe Olivari in the Western Cape, who was born deaf, born prematurely, has never been able to hear and needed an operation and hearing aids. Well, the story got a little confused after that, but the money raised has paid off, and I'll tell you why. Let's check this out, ladies and gentlemen. Very exciting news. And I would suggest that if you'd like to follow this story, you go become a subscriber. We have 370 people who are currently subscribers on the channel. You don't have to be somebody that gave money. Just go become a subscriber to this channel. It's lovely. Oh, that's not the channel. That's the shorts. Sorry. So that'll take you to the shorts, but then you can find the channel from there. My apologies. That's not the channel. But let's... I thought that should have been the channel. Maybe that's what she called it. Anyway, so should be the channel. So here is little Zoe. She's going to get her hearing aids.
Morning, guys. But gently. We don't need to pull on her ear. But if I do that, I do open...
That's not the one I want.
Morning, guys. So just letting you know that Zoe's getting her hearing aids this morning. I'm really so excited that she's going to get her hearing aids. She might be able to hear for the first time. It all depends what her brain does with all the sound. So I'm hoping it's a good reaction. But yeah! Getting a hearing aids for the first time. I'm really so excited. But I will keep you guys up to date. Thank you. Morning, guys.
So that's before the hearing aids. Now they're being fitted.
Pull on her ear, but if I do that, I do open her ear canal up a little bit. So pop that bit there, making sure that I get that under there. Okay. And then just gently pull down on the ear and push it in with the ear mold.
She's remarkably well behaved for somebody messing with her ear.
In properly. So then I just need to jiggle it, wiggle it around, just pulling gently and pushing up.
It has to fit a hole, yeah.
And then right at the end, when I'm confident on it, then I put it behind the ear.
Okay.
But it must completely seal but gently. We don't need to pull on her.
Okay, folks. Now we're going to watch the first time she gets to hear, ever. Can you imagine this? Most of us are born with our hearing. This is amazing.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
You heard Becky.
Becky was talking. Can you hear me, sorry? Yeah, you heard it. So alerting her.
It sounds like that, yes.
Zoe.
Daddy.
Hello.
Daddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Today,
She
Tuesday.
can hear now, at least a bit. So wow, what an incredible story. So let me go see if any of you have become subscribers to that channel very quickly.
Hi guys, so just a
2 of you have. All right, that's 2. That's a start. Yeah, so there's the channel for those of you unfamiliar with it. Zoe Olafari. 2 of you have become subscribers. Come on, get off your sticks. How many of you? See how many more. It doesn't cost anything. Okay, that's 5. That's a start. We took her from just like 16, I think, up to 370. So yeah, wow, amazing stuff. Cool. The MK Party, Mkonto Wesizwe Party, Action SA, slam Ramakopa's cabinet moves. Wasn't really reshuffle, and GNU failures. The MK Party has condemned what it calls the continued dysfunction and ideological incoherence of the South African government's government of national unity following the cabinet reshuffle and the dismissal of Deputy Minister Andrew Whitfield. According to the party, these developments underscore the structural flaws inherent in the GNU's composition, which it says was formed under the pretense of unity but has proven to be a political experiment that prioritized elite compromises over the interest of the working class and the marginalized. Well, it's kind of hard to argue with that, even though the MK Party is a joke. That's kind of actually accurate. The government of national unity kicked off with newbie DA ministers told that they don't represent the party. Smirking minister and the president, Kumbutsu Ncheveni, says political parties have learned from one another in the government of national unity, and the DA had to be taught that they don't represent the DA, that they represent the government and the people. Now that's rich coming from the ANC, who represents the ANC. You see, ladies and gentlemen, for 30 years, South Africa was subjected to decisions made not in parliament, not in the presidency, not in committee, but at Lutuli House, the headquarters of the African National Congress, because the MPs who were in cabinet positions weren't representing South Africans, they were representing the ANC. So to hear Kumbutsu Ncheveni try to tell us that the DA had to be punished or taught to behave themselves, they don't represent the DA, the members like Dean McPherson and Leon Schreiber and John Steenhuisen, excuse me, that's what you jackasses been doing for 30 years. Wow. Yeah, whoever would have thought we'd had a president worse than Zuma? Me? I said so. This guy's been part of the Zuma era. He was the deputy president. Andrew Whitfield acting is causing a lot of friction right now, folks. Sparks tensions in GNU, and the DA fires warning shots, but going nowhere for now. Exactly. They aren't going to go anywhere. The DA is furious at President Ramaphosa's decision to fire Andrew Whitfield as deputy minister. Ramaphosa fired Whitfield from the DA after he failed to receive travel approval. The DA has given Ramaphosa 48 hours to fire corruption accused ministers from his own party. Well, while they're at it, why don't you just fire the president? He's corruption accused in the Palapala scandal. I must unconditionally retract. Floyd Shivambu has got his comeuppance. He's been sacked as the Secretary General of the MK Party. He was told he was going to be a member of Parliament. He's not a member of Parliament. Then he ran his mouth about the guy, the spokesman using drugs, and now he's had to apologize. Floyd Shivambu is a shell. He's an embarrassment. The former EFF clown, now MK clown, will soon be some other clown. After accusing Ndela of drug use. Here he is. Former MK Party Secretary General Floyd Shivambu has retracted his statement accusing the party's spokesman of drug use after Ndela took legal action against him for defamation. You know, the other time I was not the national conveyor of the process. Now I got the benefit of benefiting from the leadership collective in terms of how we should handle certain things, he said. And part of the guidance, which I agreed with, is that I must unconditionally retract the statements about drug use and alcohol abuse by Mr. Ndela, unconditionally. Oh, my goodness. It's so embarrassing, is it not? Well, Danny Jordan's opponents are coming. Danny Jordan, the corruption-accused leader of the 2010 FIFA debacle, the corruption involved in there, and they're after him now. Jordan's opponents say that they will bring a motion to step aside as the SAFA president, South African Football Association. After months of wrangling and postponements, Danny Jordan could finally come face-to-face with those who want him to step aside from the South African Football Association when the association holds its long-awaited Congress in Sandton. Well, bring the motion. And while you're at it, get the Hawks on the case. It's time to start investigating Danny Jordan's alleged corruption from the 2010 FIFA World Cup. Fire all the deputy ministers. Full stop. Get rid of them all, says Action SA. It's a bloated cabinet. Well, it's hard to argue with that, too, even though it's hard to take Action SA seriously. Action SA wants President Ramaphosa to fire all his deputy ministers, not just the DA's Andrew Whitfield. They've long been in the crosshairs of Action SA, the deputy ministers. The party wants to introduce a constitutional amendment to do away with them. Well, I don't think you need a constitutional amendment. A law will be sufficient. The National Lottery pledges to give money to flood victims. Is that the purpose of the lottery? Ours is for education. The National Lottery Commission has pledged funds to support flood-affected communities in the Eastern Cape. Leadership led by the board chairperson, Professor Barney Petiana, is accompanied by his commissioner, Jody Schultz, are expected to visit flood-affected areas today. They're expected to meet with Abba Tembu King Dalinyebo at the Nkulukwini Royal Residence. Well, that's a mouthful. South African breweries torched in Soweto. Yeah, SAB up in smoke, ladies and gentlemen. Johannesburg's Emergency Management Service warned residents to stay clear of the breweries a couple days ago. EMS spokesperson Zole Kumalo said firefighting crews responded to a call on Thursday afternoon at the facility. The blaze reportedly began when grass in a nearby field caught fire. Yes, because grass just magically catches fire. No human intervention. Nobody was smoking dacha. Nobody left a cigarette on the ground. Nobody poured gasoline or petrol on the ground. Just grass spontaneously combusted. Well, it does do that in some places, but it's pretty rare. Cause of the fire is not yet known. A grass fire. You just told us what the cause of the fire was. It says here we don't know. That's right. No Casa Lager for you. I'm sorry. You cannot drink urine tonight. You'll have to drink something else. Buy some Windhoek Lager. Well, Robbie Wessels and Francois van Kock team up to create a new song, Bok Befok. Bok Befok. Francois van Kock and Robbie Wessels unveil Bok Befok, the ultimate rugby anthem for Springbok fans, or so they claim. I listened to it. It's okay. Not that great. It's okay. Sounds like somebody doing acid. Mauritius is inviting international tenders for a 100 megawatt floating power plant. Car power ship. Hello, guys. Pay attention. 100 megawatt floating power plant. Inviting international investors to establish and operate a floating power plant as the Indian island ocean nation seeks to address its growing energy demands. Proposed plant will run on heavy fuel oil. Requests for proposals seen by Reuters on Tuesday showed. Well, that's interesting. Oil workers snagged in dispute over a dictator's son's yacht are freed after 2 years. That's the two gentlemen who were released. And this all started after, a yacht was confiscated for payment. And then they took revenge and accused these guys of having been drug handlers. President Obang, in power in the tiny Central African Republic since 1979, included Frederick Potgieter and Peter Hoxham among the 476 prisoners he pardoned for his birthday this month. Wow. Police arrested the men for allegedly cocaine trafficking and locked them up in prison deep in the forest near the border. And when they went to the trial, no one was even allowed to look at what was supposedly the powder, supposedly cocaine. It was probably baby powder for all we know. And it was about time. The South African government did nothing to get their freedom. Nothing. Why did South African government spend no time trying to get their freedom? Any idea why? Could it be the fact that they lack sufficient skin pigmentation? Maybe that's why they made no effort to get them out. Fuel prices should be dropping, Lizzie Nell, not rising, because the price of petroleum has fallen precipitously. But when government controls the price, this is what happens. Sudan is now a catastrophe of unimaginable proportions. Ronnie Lamola pretending to be a foreign minister, pretending to understand foreign relations. And if you watched his interview, you'll notice that the man stands around lying the entire time, shifting his weight, nervous about what he's saying. Yeah, Ronnie Lamola. Thank you for waking up to Sudan years later. We've been involved in trying to stop Sudan violence since the day it started, but here's the ANC rushing in late trying to get some credit for something they're not doing. China confirms a breakthrough. They are releasing rare earth elements for export to the United States. Wow. China Friday pledged to approve export applications for rare earths to the U.S., potentially easing a major irritant in the country's trade negotiations. China's Commerce Ministry, in a written statement carried by state media, appeared to confirm details of a deal alluded to by President Trump hours earlier, with Beijing promising to review and approve eligible export applications for controlled items in accordance with law. Well, there you go. There you go. Exciting stuff there, folks. A runestone in North America turns up the oldest one. It's in a Canadian forest. This was uncovered in 2015, but not released to the public until now. Researchers spent years quietly studying a stone carved with 255 runes and an image of a boat found in northern Ontario. Now revealing the stone's existence, they're asking for the public for help. Does anybody know what happened? 2 trees fell in the forest. Whether or not anyone heard, the fall eventually revealed runes below. A stone carved with 255 runes laid beneath the trees, long hidden by soil, moss, and roots in the densely forested corner of Canadian wilderness. On the same stone, someone had carved an image of a boat with passengers. Who carved it? Why? When? First, a historian was summoned, then an archaeologist, then an expert in runes. Finally, this month, they told the public about the discovery. The runestone was found on private property in 2015 after the trees collapse exposed it to the elements in northern Ontario. The carvings quickly raised the specter of Vikings in Ontario. There's only one confirmed Viking settlement in North America. That's in Newfoundland, at Ans aux Meadows. But investigation soon knocked the idea, nor was the stone a forgery. It was genuine. Not like the Kensington runestone in Minnesota, which was faked. The Ontario runestone is a remarkable find, says Crystal Zilmer, a runologist with the University of Oslo. The stone shows how such knowledge sometimes travel with people, occasionally leaving behind finds like this one in rather unexpected places. So, Ryan Primrose, an archaeologist, soon reached Henrik Williams, a runologist and professor at Uppsala University in Sweden, who spent hours under a tarp studying the ruins in a cold October rain. It was a drizzly day, even for a Swede, he said. The ruins puzzled him at first, so he searched online for some words he couldn't make sense of. He finally landed in a book that he had seen before but never much considered, a runic guide published in 1611 by Johannes Burrus, who thought Swedes should use runes, so he wanted them to do it. He then pieced together the script, finding that it lined up with the Swedish and Protestant version of the Lord's Prayer. As for the boat, we're still working on that. The carving was likely to have taken several weeks, and a Swede was probably responsible. I don't think anybody else would have taken it upon themselves and reproduced it with such exactness. And here's a picture of the actual stone that it's carved on. Although this gave the researchers a time frame, after 1611, they have found no artifacts to provide a clear date or purpose for the carving. The trees that fell were about 80 years old, so the carving was most likely made at least a century ago. How much further back you go, we have no idea. Discovery puts a runestone among a handful of those found in Canada and the United States. The oldest to be dated with confidence is from the 1880s. But most of them don't pretend to be old at all. The one in Ontario could very well be the oldest one yet. They think it is. In Canada, researchers scoured regional archives, finding that at least a handful of Swedes were among those employed by the Hudson's Bay Company on Lake Superior in the 1800s. The stone may have been carved as a personal act of devotion or a point of congregation. But no one knows. Runestones in Ontario. Cool beans. That's pretty wild. Interesting stuff there, folks. Wow. President Trump is set on tariff demands. Yeah. As Canada negotiations head towards the deadline, Kirsten Hillman sees a 2-stage process with the initial deal followed by talks on longer-term issues during USMCA negotiations. United States, Mexico, Canada. President Trump seems intent on including tariffs in any trade deal, said the Canadian negotiators. The president really likes tariffs, she said. Canada is trying to thread a needle by trying to convince him that U.S. benefits by keeping trade with Canada open. Well, Canada's been screwing us for far too long, so we're getting even, I guess. The U.S. Supreme Court may rule today, they will rule today most likely on the birthright citizenship that has been falsely attributed to the 14th Amendment, perverting the intent of the 14th Amendment, which was intended to grant citizenship to those formerly living in bondage as slaves, to guarantee them U.S. citizenship. But it's been perverted to allow people to have anchor babies, and Trump says, no, it's at the Supreme Court. We will know today. So, U.S. Supreme Court may rule on Donald Trump's attempt to broadly enforce his executive order to limit birthright citizenship, a move that would affect thousands of babies illegally born in this country every year. Administration made emergency requests of the justice to scale back injunctions issued by several judges in Maryland, Washington, Massachusetts, blocking his directive nationwide. The judges found that Trump's order likely violates citizenship language in the 14th Amendment. It doesn't. President Trump has threatened CNN. And the New York Slimes with lawsuits over their Uranium reports, which were false. Look, it's Brian Stelter. Oh, now we got to pay for access to CNN? Screw you. We're done with that. Not paying CNN. Wow, you got to pay CNN for access now. Zoltan Mondami, the Democratic lead in New York. New York primary winner, we're seeing anti-Muslim post advocates say anti-Muslim online posts targeting New York City mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani have surged since his upset this week, including death threats and comments comparing his candidacy to the September 11th attacks. There are at least 127 violent, hate-related reports mentioning Mamdani and his campaign in the days after the polls, says CARE, a discredited Council on American Islamic Relations, an activist well, I'm not going to say what they're pro what, but they're definitely not pro-American. CARE, well, 6,200 online posts they claim are attacking Islam. Well, he is an Islamic fascist. That's what he is. And he's an Islamic socialist, and he doesn't like America. He's made that very clear in his statements and his behavior. Harvard is asking corporations to fill the gap not being filled by taxpayers. And here I have a warning. To any corporation that gives money to racist, anti-Semitic Ivy League schools, we won't buy your products or your services. Top universities look to big tech and pharmaceutical companies for support after Trump's cuts of government grants. Harvard and other top research schools are seeking corporate funders to support their science labs following sweeping cuts to government grants. The Chan School of Public Health at Harvard, which typically gets more than 70% of its annual research dollars from the federal government, lost nearly all of the funding after Trump's administration canceled hundreds of the university's research grants. The situation is far more dire at the Chan School than any other Harvard school. Oh, it's so bad. Oh, you anti-Semites, anti-white, anti-Christian scumbags. White Americans make up 75% of the population, but just 20% of the incoming class at Harvard. Why is that? Because they're racist. Racist. Well, CNN says they stand behind Natasha Bertrand's fake journalism. Yep. They stand behind the same woman who promoted the fake Russia collusion narrative. This DEI hire being promoted despite the fact she accomplishes nothing. And that just brings us to the point of so-called journalists today. We also saw what's her name there from Fox News, Griffin, who's being promoted. And we got a little concern here from Brit Hume, who undermines his credibility, which is a shame because he's such a great journalist. We stand 100% behind Natasha Bertrand's journalism, and specifically her and her colleagues reporting on their early intelligence assessment of the U.S. attack on Iran's nuclear facility. CNN's reporting made clear that it was an initial finding that could change with additional intelligence. However, they do not believe it was reasonable to criticize CNN reporters for accurately reporting the existence of the assessment and accurately characterizing its findings. No, you did not accurately characterize its findings. There was low confidence. You disclosed classified information, and you neglected to tell the public that it was low confidence that it was correct. That's a lie by an act of omission. Brit Hume embarrasses himself by defending, here we go, Jennifer Griffin.
We've heard since. Obviously, final reports are yet to be heard.
So let's jump ahead. He wants to talk about Jennifer Griffin.
It was an impressive briefing, especially by General Kane. I'd like to say a word, if I may, Dana, about Jennifer Griffin, who was attacked by the Defense Secretary today, an attack she certainly, in my view, did not deserve. Her professionalism, her knowledge, and her experience at the Pentagon is unmatched, and I have...
No, I can find majors that have professionalism, experience, and understanding of geopolitics and Department of Defense and national security more informed than Jennifer Griffin. She's a DEI hire who has never said anything of any value. She's been promoted and pimped on Fox News because most of their journalists have no clue about how the nation works. They're just rah-rah patriots. They don't know anything. Jennifer Griffin doesn't know what she's talking about. I could run circles around her on one leg. She's been anti-Trump, dishonest, and she's been wrong on so many things. She reads documents, and then she's an expert. She's not an expert. She's never been an expert. And you have tarnished your reputation, Brit Hume, by backing her in this situation.
And have had and still have the greatest regard for her. The attack on her was unfair.
No, the attack on her was warranted. The attack on her is warranted. You know, and that's a video I can get around to today. I haven't had a chance to get to it. But that's a point here. These so-called journalists who sit in the Pentagon press room and demand, well, will you commit to releasing that report? No, it's classified. How stupid are you, Jennifer Griffin? It's top secret, sensitive compartment information the public doesn't have a right to know. We don't spend $100 billion developing an intelligence collection capability so that you open your cake hole and demand that we give it to you. By the way, who's your source on this story? Who's your source, Jennifer Griffin? Who did you get the information from? The First Amendment. The First Amendment. You don't have to disclose your sources. Well, guess what? We're the government. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So the fake journalists who are dumb as a box of rocks can protect their sources, which they're allowed to do, but the government has to disclose hundreds of billions of dollars of research, people's lives. There are people behind enemy lines who share information who would be executed because Jennifer Griffin is a subject matter expert on national security. Thank you, Brit Hume. Oh, she's an expert. She's an expert. An expert. Yeah, I'm sorry. Tired of this. Unbelievable. So CNN didn't report early. CNN lied. The New York Times lied. The Washington Post lied. They left out the part they didn't emphasize was low confidence, which shows either ignorance of intelligence or willful lying. One of the two. Yep. All right, folks, that's the news for today. We didn't get to 1,000 subscriber viewers today. Oh, that's such a bummer. 592 likes, though. That's pretty good. Thank you for that, folks. Jennifer Griffin, here's the bugger off bunny for you there, young lady. I'm so sick of her being promoted by Fox News as a national security expert. She's not. I can find mid-grade, field-grade officers who could run rings around her, better informed, better educated, more articulate than her. Trust me. Never mind the fact that I could do rings around her too. And her 12-year-old boy haircut is getting a bit grating too. Yep, Fox News. Brit Hume, you tarnish your reputation, which is a shame. Which is a shame, because he's a brilliant guy. Really good. So we're up to 29,000 on the U.S. issued an apology. Never understood what a PERT is, an expert is. Hey, Mark Myberg, 12-year-old boy haircut. That's what it is. Have you seen Jennifer Griffin? Let me go to Daily Mail. Daily Mail. I showed that last night. Daily. Ooh, that's not right. Daily Mail UK. See if I can still find that story. Supreme Court does shock rolling Trump's plan and handing him. Oh, it's out. It's out. Whoa, folks, this is breaking news. That's why Trump was live. Let me go to the White House. Did I miss this already? Oh, somebody said that Trump was speaking. That's why, because he got what he wanted, probably. Wow. I think it might be over. Let's see if he's got it there. Well, Secretary Rubio's live now. Where's the White House at? I want White House. Wow. I think Trump got what he wanted. Yeah, here it is. Stop that. Here we go. Let's listen in.
Well, this was a big one, wasn't it? This was a big decision. An amazing decision, one that we're very happy about. This morning, the Supreme Court has delivered a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law in striking down the excessive use of nationwide injunctions to interfere with the normal functioning of the executive branch.
Yes.
The Supreme Court has stopped the presidency itself. That's what they've done. And really, it's been an amazing period of time this last hour. There are people elated all over the country. I've seen
right here.
Such happiness and spirit. Sometimes you don't see that, but this case is very important. I was elected on a historic mandate, but in recent months we've seen a handful of radical left judges effectively try to overrule the rightful powers of the president to stop the American people from getting the policies that they voted for in record numbers. It was a grave threat to democracy, frankly, and instead of merely ruling on the immediate cases before them, these judges have attempted to dictate the law for the entire nation.
Yep.
In practice, this meant that if any one of the nearly 700 federal judges disagreed with the policy of a duly elected president of the United States,
Hey, Natalie.
he or she could block that policy from going into effect or at least delay it for many years, tie it up in the court system. This was a colossal abuse of power which never occurred in American history prior to recent decades. And we've been hit with more nationwide injunctions than were issued in the entire 20th century together.
Yep.
Think about it, more than the entire 20th century, me. I'm grateful to the Supreme Court for stepping in and solving this very, very big and complex problem, and they've made it very simple. I want to thank Justice Barrett, who wrote the opinion brilliantly, as well as Chief Justice Roberts, and Justices Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Thomas. Great people. Thanks for this decision, and thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgery, and numerous other priorities of the American people. We have so many of them. I have a whole list. I'm not going to bore you, and I'm going to have Pam get up and say a few words, but there's really, she can talk as long as she wants, because this is a very important decision. This is a decision that covers a tremendous amount of territory. But I want to just thank again the Supreme Court for this ruling. It's a giant. It's a giant. And they should be very proud, and our country should be very proud of the Supreme Court today. And with that, I'd like you to listen to the words of Pam Bondi. She's an incredible Attorney General. We're very proud of her. And as you know, Todd Blanche is with us, and we have so many others that worked on this case and other cases. And I think they're doing a great job. Pam, please say a few words.
Daddy's home. All I do is win, 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 no matter what.
President Trump.
And my hands go up.
Thank you for
and they stay there.
Americans. Americans are finally getting what they voted for. No longer will we have rogue judges striking down President Trump's policies across the entire nation. No longer. Today, in the 6-3 opinion, Justice Barrett correctly holds that the district court lacks authority to enter nationwide or universal injunctions. These lawless injunctions gave relief to everyone in the world instead of the parties before the court. As the Supreme Court held today, they turned district courts into the imperial judiciary.
Ooh, good description.
Active liberal judges have used these injunctions to block virtually all of President Trump's policies. To put this in perspective, there are 94 federal judicial districts. 5 of those districts throughout this country held 35 of the nationwide injunctions. Think about that. 94 districts, and 35 out of the 40 opinions with nationwide injunctions came from 5 liberal districts in this country. No longer. No longer. These injunctions have blocked our policies, from tariffs to military readiness to immigration to foreign affairs, fraud, abuse, and many other issues. The judges have tried to seize the executive branch's power, and they cannot do that. No longer. No longer. And on immigration, on a side note, today marks 2,711 arrests on these terrorists and these gangs. Total arrest today with HSI investigations. And thank you, Stephen Miller. Thank you to Homeland Security. Thank you to everyone working hand in hand with the FBI on all of these transnational gangs. TDA has been a huge terror to our country, as well as MS-13,
Trinidad de Agua.
as well as Sinaloa cartels. No longer.
You know what you're talking about, Pablo
No
Charlie?
longer.
It's a Supreme
These
Court
injunctions
decision.
have allowed
Elections won't
Supreme
overturn
Court
it.
judges to be emperors. They vetoed all of President Trump's power.
Thank you,
and
Irene.
they cannot do that. This has been a bipartisan problem that has lasted 5 presidential terms. 5 different presidents.
Yep, since Bush.
And it has ended today. We will continue to fight for President Trump's policies. I want to thank the Office of White House Counsel, Dave Warrington. You and your staff have been incredible. Our Solicitor General's office, John Sowers, Sarah Harris, and Todd Blanche and Emil Bovey. Todd's going to say a few words because we've had another major ruling today on transgender books and some other great wins that we've had. But no longer will they have this power in our country. It is the president's authority under his executive branch to do everything to fight for the American people, and he will continue to do that. That's why he was overwhelmingly elected. Thank you.
Now let's go arrest all the criminals from the Biden regime there, Pam.
Thank you. Today's a great day for the rule of law.
Thank you.
It's a great day for the Justice
Des.
Department. And it's one that's been a long time coming, and one that every American should have been waiting for with bated breath. And so I echo what the President said and Attorney General Bondi, that the Supreme Court did a great thing today, not only for this administration, but for every American in this country. If not for the injunctions case, we would be here talking about another great decision that came down today, the trans books case, which restores parents' rights to decide their child's education.
Good.
Seems like a basic idea, but it took the Supreme Court to set the record straight, and we thank them for that. And now that ruling allows parents to opt out of dangerous trans ideology and make the decisions for their children that they believe is correct. And so we thank the Supreme Court for that. There's been multiple decisions over the past several weeks that just show why this nationwide injunction ban had to happen. For example, what I mean by that is local district court judges issuing decisions that are clearly contrary to law just because they don't like the policy of President Trump. And when it gets to the Supreme Court has to correct it. But that takes time. The Attorney General thanked our lawyers, and I'll do it again. Our lawyers are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to fight these injunctions and to emergency appeals, emergency stays, going back to the district court judge, asking them to change their view. And so their hard work is really paying off today, but over the past few weeks. We had a stay of an order that prevented DHS from moving aliens to a third country. We had a stay of an order that stopped the Department of Defense from implementing military readiness, the EO that President Trump signed. We had another stay of an order forcing reinstatement of fired executive branch employees, entirely within the president in Article 2, his right to do.
Yep.
We had a stay of, as you all know, of numerous DOJ cases. And again, every one of those stays requires a tremendous amount of work and effort by the lawyers and parties involved. And they should be doing other work. They should be doing the work that the president and this administration demands and has a right to demand.
Trump is being very patient. Look at him.
These local judges who don't make decisions based on the law. They make decisions because they just simply don't agree with the administration's decision about a policy, and that's wrong. Thank you.
Wow.
Any questions?
Questions? Okay.
Yes, for Pam, please.
Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Attorney General. So, as you know, the Supreme Court did not rule on the underlying constitutionality of the President's Birthright citizenship order. So,
take back the land.
What is the plan now? Are you going to try to implement the EO just in states where there isn't a legal challenge?
Yes, so birthright citizenship will be decided in October, in the next session, by the Supreme Court, unless it comes down in the next few minutes. I guess it could come down. I think they're still deliberating right now on some cases. As you heard, we just got transgender books, which is a huge win. But most likely, that will be decided in October in the next session. However, it indirectly impacts us because, as you correctly pointed out, if there's a birthright citizenship case in Oregon, it will only affect the plaintiff in Oregon, not the entire country. So yes, it's indirectly, but that's pending litigation, and we're waiting on that in the next term.
And how concerned are you that the Supreme Court will come back and determine that the executive order is unconstitutional?
Oh, we're very confident in the Supreme Court. But again, it's pending litigation, and that will directly be determined in October, but it indirectly impacts every case in this country, and we're thrilled with their decision today. Peter.
Madam Attorney General, thank you for being here to take our questions. A couple questions to the both of you. The EO had a 30-day grace period before it goes into effect. Is there any thought about trying to make it effective immediately within that period of time?
We're going to follow the law. We're going to make those decisions, and we're going to do what's right in the bounds of the law.
And then the DOJ didn't ask the justices to rule on the merits of the birthright citizenship ban. Just for explanation purposes, why?
Sure, because that's going to come down in October in the separate. This was huge because it's indirectly impacted today. As I said, it's case by case. Let me reiterate, of the 35 of the 40 nationwide injunctions filed against this president, against his executive authority as President of the United States, 35 of them came from Maryland, D.C., Massachusetts, California, Washington. I mean, that's crazy. These 5 districts. So yes, it indirectly impacts us. It will be a separate decision in October. Next question.
Thank you, Mr. President. A question for you, sir. Do you believe this ends the power of the lower court judges to stop your agenda? Do you see this as a full green light for your agenda going forward?
That's a good question.
You have to really speak to the lawyers about that. But this is really also a decision based on common sense. It didn't work the other way. It was a disaster where somebody from a certain location in a very liberal state or a liberal judge or a liberal group of judges could tie up a whole country for years because their decision would sometimes take years to overturn. We've overturned many of the decisions, but it would take years to do.
And a lot of money wasted time.
We have to act quickly. When it comes to illegal immigration, we have murderers, killers, we have drug dealers, we have what they've allowed to come into our country should never be forgotten.
Hey, John Kenyon, what's going on, man?
What they've done to our country. And we have to be able to act very quickly, and we're going to do that. Thank you.
Hey, I'm in my 60s. I don't look like I'm in my 60s.
Praised her and her opinion here in this case. She has taken some heat, though, from some of your supporters who have labeled her weak, a squishy, a rattled law professor. What is your take on that?
I don't know about that. I just have great respect for her. I always have. And her decision was brilliantly written today. From all accounts, yeah.
Transgender rulings.
Mr. President, what would you say to Americans who fear that this is more and more concentration of power in the White House?
No, it's a restoration of power, you dumbass.
The Constitution. This is what it's all about, and this is really the opposite of that. I mean, the question
Exactly.
is fine, but it's the opposite. The Constitution has been brought back.
Yep, restoring the Constitution.
Thank you so much, President Trump. Illegal crossings in the border are 0 now.
0. Does everyone hear that? 0.
Trump 2028!
Do you intend, President Trump?
What the heck was that?
Who's that guy? I like him. He's working the cameras.
With this new reality, President Trump, in the border, do you intend to engage personally with leaders from South America, not only Central America?
Sure.
Hey, Mark.
I do that.
And if you have a perspective of meeting some presidents from South America, as Brazil, for example.
Well, you should, as an example, not South America, but NATO over the weekend. They have great respect for our country now. They did things that nobody thought was possible. They took funding from 2% to 5%. Nobody thought they'd ever pay 2%. And
Not going to happen, but they agreed to it.
It's over $1 trillion more a year. Think of that, $1 trillion. Nobody thought that could happen. That's a different group of people, different
I have
countries.
dreams too,
But we get along with
multipass.
a lot of countries. We are respected again. Our country, the U.S., is respected again. Was not respected 6 months ago, I can tell you. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, Mr. President, you have a deadline coming up on trade in 2 weeks. Which countries, if
On
any,
what?
on trade, on tariffs?
Yeah, tariffs.
Which countries, if any, are close to agreements with the administration?
Not South Africa.
Question. We've made a deal with China. We've made a deal with probably 4 or 5 different countries.
UK.
The UK was a great deal for both. And we're in the process of making some others. But ultimately, in fact, Scott is here. Howard Lutnick, these two guys have been doing an incredible job, and the people that work with them have been doing an incredible job. But you know, we have 200 countries, you could say 200 countries
in
plus.
paradise.
You can't do that. So at a certain point over the next week and a half or so, or maybe before, we're going to send out a letter. We talked to many of the countries, and we're just going to tell them what they have to pay to do business in the United States. And it's going to go very quickly. But some of the bigger countries, so India, I think we're going to reach a deal where we have the right to go in and trade. Right now it's restricted. You can't walk in there, you can't even think about it. We're looking to get a full trade barrier dropping, which is unthinkable. And I'm not sure that that's going to happen, but as of this moment, we've agreed to that, go into Indian trade. We're going to be...
Anna Mae, Congress can always pass a law granting changing an amendment to the Constitution. The president can sign it, but that's not it. 3/4 of the states then have to ratify it in a period of time. So that's not going to happen.
We've taken in already hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. No inflation. The only problem we have is we have a Fed guy that doesn't understand what's happening, and it would be great if he'd lower the rate because we'd be able to borrow a lot cheaper. Yeah, go ahead, please. Why don't we keep it on this subject? This is such a big subject. You know what? Trade is so big, but this, I don't know, in a certain way, this might be bigger than trade.
It's much bigger than trade.
I think this is bigger than trade. Yes, please, go ahead.
I was wondering, though, if you could...
Go ahead.
Sir, on the transgender ruling, the Supreme Court ruling that parents with religious objections can pull their kids out of public school lessons that use LGBTQ materials. Pam brought it up. Your reaction to that ruling today, sir?
That's a good question.
The ruling was a great ruling, and I think it's a great ruling for parents. It's really a ruling for parents. They lost control of the schools. They lost control of their child, and this is a tremendous victory for parents. And I'm not surprised by it, but I am surprised that it went this far. It took us to bring life back to normal, so it's wonderful. It's parental, and I kept saying, we will give you back your parental rights. They were taken away, and this is a tremendous victory for parents. Yeah.
Mr. President, if you look at the back at the last week, it's been extraordinary in terms of the action in the Middle East. You were at The Hague. I'm wondering now,
a week, hasn't it?
I'm wondering now if you believe that Iran. I'm wondering now, sir, if you believe that Iran has given up its long history of ambitions with nuclear weapons.
No, they haven't.
What would you like to see from them to prove that they do? And what type of meetings is your administration looking for next week with Iran?
So Iran wants to meet. As you know, their sites were obliterated. They're very evil nuclear sites. They were, now has been proven. We had some fake news for a little while. The same people that covered
That's not the CIA director. It's an attorney.
Laptop was from Russia. The same people that did 3 or 4 other Russia hoax.
But on their
No, wait. Just listen. They came up with something that delayed the credit that our great pilots and these great what talent that was, and they hit it right down in the spot. 52,000 feet. Think of this dark, no moon, you couldn't see a thing. And they hit the refrigerator door, as they say. That's the size of a target. And overwhelmingly, and it's
they wouldn't,
amazing
Charles.
what was done. We're the only ones that could have done it. And we took out the 2 of the other sites also.
You're welcome,
in
Holden.
addition to that, we finished them off. That was a very evil intention. I believe that, and again, time will tell, but I don't believe that they're going to go back into nuclear anytime soon. They spent over $1 trillion on nuclear, and they never got it together. And nothing was moved from the site, by the way. To do that is very dangerous. It's very, very heavy material. Those cars were most likely the cars of masons because they were pouring concrete at the top, at the hatch, as you know, the hatch going into the nuclear site. They wanted to reinforce it, and they had some masons there pouring concrete. By the way, that concrete was obliterated. It hit exactly at the concrete. It was, I don't think it had a chance to dry, but everything's down there. It's under millions of tons of
rubble.
Rock.
Thank you, Etienne, for this super chat. You're very welcome.
Was it part of the deal?
Well, we'll take a look. We've had a great relationship with El Salvador. They have a fantastic leader. They built a massive prison system. And I don't know exactly why, but it's a hell of a system. And we bring people there, and when they go there, they don't get out. And frankly, when they hear they have to go there, they become very nice people. They become very nice people. It's a tough system, but it's a brilliant system. And It's a system done by a very, very good leader. We'll talk about El Salvador. A lot of respect. Yeah, please.
Thank you. A question for you and then a question for the Attorney General. As you go into negotiations and talks with Iran, are you demanding not only that there would be no uranium production?
Thank you, Fiona, for the 50 Rand super sticker.
Also that Iran would turn over all existing stockpiles of uranium?
Well, you know, we're a little early for that, but something like that, yeah, we'll do something like that. Let me say that I've been saying for 25 years, even as a civilian, you cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. And that's what happened. It's been obliterated. It would be years before they could ever get going. And I really think it's probably the last thing. They have to recover from a hell of a tough war.
Would you also be demanding that the IAEA have full rights to inspect?
So he's getting a third question now.
Or somebody that we respect, including ourselves.
And a question for both the President and the Attorney General. Under birthright citizenship, if this is implemented, who would be tasked with actually vetting citizenship? And how, like, would this be a situation where you have nurses and doctors checking for citizenship of parents? Or?
This is all pending litigation. It's going to be decided in October by the Supreme Court.
Unless we get some
today.
today.
The litigation.
If you have an undocumented baby, would that baby then be an enforcement priority?
The violent criminals in our country.
Gerald Feltman, thank you for the 70 Rand super chat.
Perspective. Today marked the 2,711th arrest in our country of TDA members. Just TDA. Everyone in this room agrees they are one of the most violent criminal organizations in the world. And the Biden administration let them walk into our country for the last 4 years. 2,711 of them today have been arrested in our country. That is the priority of
Sean Blum, thank you for the 70 Rand. According to what Trump said earlier, funding for refugee resettlement was suspended. That's not what Trump said. You misheard. Will this include refugee program resettlement? No, it has nothing to do with it. What he said is that their executive order was attacked and they tried to freeze it. The refugee program for the world is back in force, folks. I mean, the media's not reporting it. Afghans are coming to America almost every week. Not just South Africans coming here. So the program was restored. The funding was paused for 90 days. They tried to interdict it and stop it. He had to go to court to reinstate it. That's what he's talking about, okay? So there's nothing to do with South Africa. Thank you for the 70 Rand, though.
And, you know, they use
Martin Fundamental, thank you, 14 Rand.
Some of the worst people, some of the cartels to get people into our country, just so you know. And again, I say, if you look at the end of the Civil War, the 1800s, it was a very turbulent time. If you take the end day, was it 1869 or whatever? But you take that exact day, that's when the case was filed. And the case ended shortly thereafter. This had to do with the babies of slaves, very obviously. And I think we're going to win. People I don't think they went about discussing it right. I came along and we looked and we said, wait a minute, this is wrong. We've been looking at birthright citizenship wrong for years.
Yep.
But they've used it. The cartels have used birthright citizenship to get very bad people in. And what Pam's doing and what Todd and everybody else, what they're doing at DOJ and all over, FBI, ICE, Border Patrol, these are incredible people. They're trying to keep our country safe, and they don't want to have people come in. This is just another way that they get illegal immigrants into our country, and in some cases, very, very bad ones. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your tax bill, if I could for a moment.
I compare Pam Bondi to Janet Reno.
Of it right now, after the Senate parliamentarian ruled that sections of it were outside of the process that they're using to get this through. Do you think that senators should respect the decisions of the parliamentarian? And what have you personally done in the last 48 hours to try and get Republican senators who are against the bill to a yes?
Well, look, it's a great bill. It's a massive tax cut. If it's not approved, your taxes will go up by 68%. Think of that, 68, a record, the highest in the history. The Democrats won't approve it only because politically it's so good for the Republicans. The Democrats aren't approving it. But think of what they're not approving. They're not approving border security. We've done a great job at the border, but we have to add some wall. We have to do various things. We have no money for that. We have no money for the border. We have no money for so many things. But if the Democrats, it'll be interesting to see if we get any Democrat votes. We should. If I were a Democrat, I would absolutely, maybe Fetterman, because he seems to be the most sensible one lately. If I were a Democrat, I would vote for this bill all day long because it's tax cuts and so many other things that are common sense. They're basic things. I think they're doing fine. The parliamentarian's been a little difficult. And I would say that I disagree with the parliamentarian on some things, and on other ways he's been fine. But we'll have to see. It's a big issue. I will tell you this, if that bill doesn't pass, the country will get a 68% tax increase. So think of this, you're a Democrat and you vote against it. That means you're voting in favor, because
tax increase.
Essentially you're voting in favor of the largest tax
in
hike
history.
in the history of our country. And you can't do that. In addition, we're cutting costs by $1.7 trillion, and it won't affect anybody. It's just fraud, waste, and abuse.
Mr. President.
Woo, those hands.
Mr. President, a leading global economist just did a 180 and says your tariff plan, you may have outsmarted everybody with it.
That's what I said.
I love this.
I said that months ago.
This is the favorite. This is the best question I've ever been asked, because I've been going through abuse for years on this. Because as you know, we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars, no inflation whatsoever.
But Mr. President, what is your message to critics who think your tariff plan will cause a recession?
I think they should go back to business school. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. I mean, we're taking in billions and billions of dollars from China and a lot of other countries. We took in, I had a call from somebody in the House and a high official. Sir, we have a problem. We don't know what to do. The books are a mess. I said, what do you mean by the books? The books, the money coming in is so terrible. I figured, oh boy, what's this? I don't like this question. I said, so what's it? There's so much money coming in, and there must be some kind of an accounting mistake, because we have hundreds of billions of dollars more money than we thought. I said, do me a favor, go check call me back. You have to call me back. Check the tariff column. He calls me back 2 hours later, says, you're right. We took in $88 billion in tariffs. They have so much money coming in. But more...
Candace, I have no email from you. I have an email from a Candace who asked me for a phone number. I provided that weeks ago. I have no email from you. I don't know where you sent it.
We have all of it. We have over $15 trillion, just about, Scott. I think we're right about that number. We went to Saudi Arabia. We went to Qatar. We went to UAE. Very smart people, very smart leaders, great leaders. And we took in $5.1 trillion just there. Without the tariffs, I mean, they also liked a thing called November 5th, November 6th, and November 7th. That was a very good little period of time. It's called the presidential election. You know, you used to have one-day election. Now you have it go over it. But even if you just took that little period, because it was pretty obvious it was going to be a landslide. And they like that, but they love the tariffs. I had Texas Instruments come in the other day, big company, and he said, we're putting in $60 billion into new plants and new equipment, new everything. Sir, you're going to keep the tariffs, aren't you? Because of everything.
Oh, I do have it, Candace. My apologies.
And we are going to absolutely keep it. And they're worried that somebody that, like this communist from New York.
Apologies, Candace. When I did a search, it didn't here. I found it here. I don't know why it didn't show up. I've got it. I'll look at it.
They go to a communistic set. That's so bad for New York. But the rest of the country is revolting against it. But if somebody got elected, they're afraid that if this was taken off, well, we're going to guarantee it's never going to be taken off. And again, we're taking in think of this, hundreds of billions of dollars. And they were all confused because they've never seen this before. You know,
Candace, as far as your question, I don't know how to answer your question because you haven't really articulated the problem to me. I'm having to make several assumptions about what you're talking about. You're talking as if I know about the situation. You've mentioned a particular issue, but you haven't detailed it for me. I mean, you said you talked to a lot of people, but I don't understand. You know, I think I understand, but you need to give me more information before I can try to answer that question.
The worst president in the history of our country, by the way. What he did on our border can never, ever be forgotten. To me, that's the worst of all the things. And he's done some terrible things, grossly incompetent. Nobody knew it was him, because I don't think it was him. I think it was whoever was controlling the auto pen. But our country is doing great. And those leaders and other leaders, I just left, as you know, a large group of the most highly respected people. And that includes big countries. When you look at Germany and France and Spain, although Spain didn't come through, but they will. By the way, guaranteed they will. That was the only country that sort of tried to hold back on putting up the money. But just so you know, they said, it's unbelievable what's happened to the USA. You were a dead country. We didn't respect the country, the leader. You were dead.
Thank you, Candace.
As a doornail. One said to me, you went from being a dead country, you are right now the hottest country anywhere in the world,
The whole world is talking about the USA, and everybody wants a part of it, and they're pouring into our country, and you're going to see those numbers. Thank you for that question. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question about trade. Secretary Bessent has said that he hopes tariff deals with major partners will be done by Labor Day. So if some deals are not done by your July 9th deadline, will some countries' tariffs go back up, or will they stay where they are?
Good question.
Some countries that are used to ripping us off, to be honest with you. I don't want to name them, but
South
you
Africa
sort of can name them. And they're so used to just, taking billions and billions of, look, we had a trade deficit of more than $1 trillion. Think of it, a trade deficit. That's because nobody cared. We cared a lot when, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariff. We had the greatest economy in history up until now. I think we're going to blow it away. But during my time, and especially prior to COVID, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country. I think we're going to blow it away now based on the kind of numbers that we're seeing. But some countries are very angry because they've been ripping us off for years. They've been making billions and billions of dollars. There was nobody to negotiate with. They could do whatever they want. They charge just tariffs, by the way.
Yep.
At numbers that we've never seen before. And we ended up
Yes, he
losing
can
much
serve
more
as
than
vice
$1 trillion
president,
a
or
year.
Supreme Court,
$1 trillion
or
a year
Congress,
on trade.
or governor, senator.
And now they're being met with a force that's far greater than them, and they don't
Legion,
like it. So
thank
they're
you for your
upset
50 rand.
Because instead of making, $5 billion, they're going to break even, or they'll make a little bit. I want to be nice. They'll make a little bit.
I want to be nice.
It's a big difference. Yeah, please go. Go ahead. Red dress.
Red dress.
Is there any more information on the special prosecutor? So many Americans still have questions about the 2020 election. And speaking of rogue judges, would you consider appointing somebody at DOJ maybe to investigate the judges that allowed for the political persecution of you, your family, and your supporters during the Biden administration?
I love you. Who are you? Well, it's just a very nice question. And it's not a setup. I have no idea who you are, but I appreciate that question. All I can say is we're not here for that. I hope so. I hope they're doing a thing because that election was rigged and stolen, and we can't allow that to happen. A lot of people tell me, sir, you just won the greatest election in the history of our country. You won at numbers that won all 7 swing states, won the popular vote, won everything. Sir, go on with your life. And many people that say that, good people, friends of mine, then you have people that say that same thing, go on with your life, but you have to find out what happened because
Can't allow that.
Let that happen again.
Yep.
Look at what this lunatic did. Look at what he did.
Lunatic.
He opened our
Biden.
borders to people that were murderers. 11,888 to be exact, murderers. And we've captured many of those murderers, and we're bringing them back, or some of them are so dangerous that we don't even want to bring them back. We're afraid they're going to try and come back in. But he allowed people to come into this country, people from mental institutions, insane asylums, that's a mental institution on steroids, people from mental institutions, gang members, drug dealers, people, jails being emptied out into our country. Venezuela emptied out almost its entire prison population into our country. But I don't want to blame them. Many countries have done that. The Congo, we have a great press conference coming up later, and it's the Congo and Rwanda. They were fighting for years, and it was machetes, it was vicious, it was as vicious, people's heads being chopped off. And I have a man who's very good in that part of the world, very smart, and put them together, and we're signing a peace treaty today. First time in many years they're going to have peace.
Well,
And,
don't count on that, but
it's
yeah.
a big deal. We talk about Russia, and we're working that one. President Putin called up and he said, I'd love to help you with Iran. I said, do me a favor. I'll handle Iran. Help me with Russia. We got to get that one settled. And I think something's going to happen there.
Hit the like button,
But
folks.
We did,
Hit the like button.
We did some great work. India and Pakistan. That was going to be maybe nuclear. We did that. We did a lot
they'll
of
sign an
work.
agreement, but there
I
won't
don't
be
know if
peace.
there's ever been a president that's done much more. Serbia, Kosovo.
Abraham
is gonna
Accords.
Go at it. Going to be a big war. I said, you go at it. There's no trade with the United States. They said, well, maybe we won't go at it. That's what happened with India and Pakistan. I was negotiating with both of them, and I said to Scott, I said to Howard, cancel all deals with India and Pakistan. They're not trading with us because they're in a war. They called back, what do? I said, look, you want to have trade with the United States, it's great. But you want to go and start using nuclear weapons on each other? We're not going to allow that. And they both agreed. Both are great leaders.
No,
They
we
both
go
agreed
to the
not
Speaker of the
do it.
House since he'd already served
So
his
we did a
terms.
lot, but I appreciate that question.
Although that question's in debate. Jeez, good God. That question's somewhat in debate legally.
Thank you, Mr.
Orange.
President. Thank you, Mr. President. I was
Orange.
speaking with Senator Ron Johnson on the One Big Beautiful Bill, and he says he
Yeah.
really wants to get to yes for you and get this accomplished.
He does. He's a good man.
But he also said that he needs more time, and he is not certain that the July 4th deadline is
Well,
possible.
then he's not such a good man.
Because there's too much work to
No,
do.
he's a good man. Ron
How
Johnson's
important-
doing a good job. He's very committed. Every Republican senator is committed. And, you know, you could have a couple of grandstanders, in all fairness. You could have somebody else. And it's very dangerous because our country would go from being the most successful country in the world to who knows what happens with a 68%, think of it, 68% tax increase. That was given by the Democrats because they like high taxes. I don't know what happened. You know, all my life, I'd grow up and I'd watch politicians talking. I'd say, oh, that's fun. And they were always saying, we will cut your taxes. We will cut your tax. I never heard it. They say, we will raise your taxes.
Yeah, that's their
And
party
they
position.
Elect people like this guy in New York that maybe has a chance. I find it hard to believe, but he
Yeah.
maybe has
Curtis
a
Lee
chance.
was going to win that race.
They want to raise your taxes. So they want to see a 68% tax increase. That's more money than anybody could afford. You'd go into a depression if that ever happened. So I think there's a lot of pressure to get that approved.
How important is the July 4th deadline to you? If
It's
the
important. It's not the
deadline
end
were to
all.
August?
It can go longer, but we'd like to get it done by that
She's
time
pretty.
if possible. And look, we have a lot of very committed people, and they feel very strongly about a subject, subjects that you're not even thinking about that are important to Republicans. The problem
the
we
chat
have
did not freeze.
is that it's a great bill. It's a popular bill, but we'll get no Democrats only because they don't want to vote for Trump. If that bill was their bill, oh, they
They'd
would
vote
be so
for it.
happy. It's so great for our military. It's great for everything. And they would normally vote, but because their hatred of Trump, they have Trump derangement syndrome at levels never seen before.
Yep.
And instead of voting for a tax cut, they're voting for a tax increase of 68%. They're
Yep.
voting to destroy Social Security, destroy Medicare, and destroy Medicaid. And we're voting to make them perfect and to make them better, make them stronger and better. They're going to destroy Medicaid and they're going to destroy Medicare, and Social Security will follow. If you vote for the Democrats, you're dead on those three things.
Thank you, Mr. President. On a related subject, many Democrats have said that they are not going to support crypto bills in Congress only because of you and your family's personal crypto ventures. And these votes are in some cases needed to pass. Are you open to the idea of pulling away from your personal crypto ventures just for the next few years if that helps
He's
get
not
these
involved
crypto
in
bills
it.
passed
Yeah.
in the next few months?
Well, it's a very funny thing, crypto. So I became a fan of crypto, and to me it's an industry. I view it as an industry, and I'm president. And if we didn't have it, China would, or somebody else would, but most likely China. China would love to. And we've dominated that industry. It's a big industry, by the way. In fact, when the stock market went down recently, crypto and Bitcoin and all of that went down much less than anybody else as a group. And we've created a very powerful industry, and that's much more important than anything that we invest in. We invest in it, but really that was an industry that wasn't doing particularly well. I got involved with it a couple of years ago, and before the second term. I got involved before I decided to run. I only decided to run because I saw what was happening, and Biden was incompetent, and the administration was crooked and incompetent.
Yep.
And I was in Bitcoin then, not knowing if I was going to do it a third time. So it's become amazing. I mean, it's the jobs that it produces, and I notice more and more you pay in Bitcoin. I mean, people are saying it takes a lot of pressure off the dollar, and it's a great thing for our country. So I don't care about investing. You know, I have I have kids, and they invest in different things. They do believe in it. But I'm president, and what I did do there is build an industry that's very important. And you know, if we didn't have it, China would. Okay.
Sir, Mr. President,
Go ahead. With the glasses, gentlemen, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. So,
Are you going to cut funds in the sanctuary states, like for instance California, they keep supporting illegal immigration, and then these people work under
Yeah, we're
the
giving them a
table?
hard time.
And also, in a foreign policy
I
question.
mean, they don't have a governor in California.
No, they don't.
Wants to give away everything to people that nobody's seen before. If we didn't go into Los Angeles with the military, which did a fantastic job, but
Yep.
if we didn't go into Los Angeles, bringing in the National Guard, I
would've
would've
burned all the
military
federal
if
buildings.
It was necessary because you have to. We have the right to. That was another thing upheld by the Supreme Court. But if we didn't go in with the National Guard and be strong and tough, you wouldn't maybe have Los Angeles. It would be like the rest of California, the rest of Los Angeles. They lost 25,000 houses in a fire. They should have lost none. You know, I sent the water down. I had to break into their water supply because they just refused to do it. They're crazy. There's something wrong with them. They have plenty of water. They don't have droughts or anything. They have plenty. We let it come down from the Pacific Northwest. They routed all the water out into the Pacific Ocean for environmental reasons, okay? And now you have 25,000 houses, none of which would have burned down if you had the water. They didn't have water. They didn't have water for the fire pumps. They didn't have water in the sprinkler systems that people put in. So the answer is we're going to work with governors. We're going to work with radical left Democrats and Democrats, and we're going to make it good for everybody. We'll have to stop the crime in those, or in the case of the cities, I think I can say just about all cities with heavy crime are run by Democrats.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Ooh, that was loud.
Yeah, with the glasses.
I'm with you.
Go ahead, yes. Yeah, no, the man behind you, yeah, please.
President Trump, Anthony Mashak from Lebanon. I want to ask you regarding the threats posed by Iran's allies and proxies operating in the U.S. They were threatening your life. So what do you say about that? And regarding the Lebanon, because Hezbollah is as well part of Iran's allies, is there any time frame in Lebanon regarding disarming Hezbollah in Lebanon?
Yeah. Lebanon is a great place with brilliant people. You know, it was known
Was
for
a great place.
professors and doctors
In the
and
60s,
incredible history.
before the
and hopefully we can bring
Islamists
it back again.
destroyed
I just,
it.
Appointed a friend of mine who's Lebanese, and I didn't know he was Lebanese. I've known him for 20 years. Very, very successful man. And I just appointed him. And I said, why would you want that? He said, because I was born there, I was raised there, I love it. I love it so much. I said, you know, it's very dangerous going to Lebanon as ambassador. And he said, that's what they say, but I don't care about danger. I mean, this is a guy that is just a very big business guy. He wants to give up his whole life to go to Lebanon because he believes in it so much. We're with Lebanon all the way. We'll try and straighten it out. Threaten my life? Yeah, they have threatened. I get that throbbing feeling every once in a while. Get that throbbing feeling, but you know what? That's okay. This is a dangerous business. What I do is a dangerous business. You know, I tell the story of the car companies and different people in different professions you have. Race car drivers, as an example. 1/10 of 1% die. Bull riders, 1/10 of 1%. That's not a lot, but it's people die. When you're president, it's about 5%. If somebody would have told me that, maybe I wouldn't have run. Okay? This is a very dangerous profession. Yeah, please. By the way, so many questions. Should we keep this going, Pam? Or
Yeah, how friendly they are.
This is the opposite of Biden. Biden would take a half a question and he'd leave without answering it. Go ahead. You tell me when it gets boring. Okay?
If Iran...
Are you from Iran?
No, I'm not from Iran. I'm from the UK. But if the intelligence reports conclude that Iran can enrich uranium to a level that concerns you, would you consider bombing the country again?
Without question. Absolutely.
Whoa!
Turned out to be unbelievable. But, you know, our incredible flyers and I call them the shots. These guys are unbelievable. Think from 52,000 feet, they hit the equivalent of a refrigerator door. They actually hit it right in the center, so it's much smaller than that. And just bomb after bomb going deeper, deeper, blowing up. Incredible, incredible thing. I don't know if you heard the general. He was very impressive. Raising
Cornwall,
Gage.
hey.
You know, he's the one that beat
How's it going to
ISIS
Beaumont?
for me. And he did it in a matter of weeks. And I was told it was going to take 4 or 5 years. And when I got this job, I always said, if I get this job, I'm going to put that guy as the head of the Joint Chiefs of
President has
Staff.
nothing to do with governors.
And Dan Kane, and he, when I heard his name was Raisin, his nickname is Raisin Kane. I said, you got to be kidding. So I liked him right from the beginning, but he knocked out ISIS in a time that nobody ever thought possible.
4 months.
And when this attack was completed and so successful, I said, now I know how you knocked out ISIS so quickly. But we have the best people, we have the best equipment in the world. You know, I rebuilt the military during my 4 years, during my other term. We have the best equipment in the world. The problem is we gave away, you know, a lot of it, but small relatively speaking. We gave a lot of it away to Afghanistan. Shouldn't have happened. That just shows how incompetent they were. They gave all that equipment away, billions and billions of dollars worth. Shouldn't have happened, but that was small compared to what we have. Now we have a great military with great people. Okay. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, congratulations. A couple of very different questions. One is Rwanda, 1994. As you grew up in New York, we all knew how horrific those attacks were. Congratulations
got to do with
on
New
the
York?
treaty. There are talks that perhaps...
That's going to take place today at 3 o'clock in the Oval Office. We're going to have a signing with Rwanda and the
I'll
Congo.
have to go live for that.
So I'm a little out of my league in that one because I didn't know too much about it. I knew one thing. They were going at it for many years and with machetes. It is one of the worst wars that anyone's ever seen. And I just happened to have somebody that was able to get it settled. I mean, just a brilliant person who is very comfortable in that part of the world. It's a very dangerous part of the world.
Send me, man. Wake up.
People are being killed. School children are being raided and killed. And I don't even want to say how, but as viciously as I've ever heard. Are you uncomfortable? No, that's the part of the world that I know. Very comfortable. Was able to get them together and sell it. And not only that, we're getting for the United States a lot of the mineral rights from the Congo as part of it. They're so honored to be here. They never thought they'd be coming to. Look, this is a very tough part of the world. They never thought, they were just telling me, they never thought they'd ever be coming to the White House. And they're so honored. And so we're going to give them a great big reception. But that's
3
after
o'clock.
many years of fighting. It's a great thing. That's at 3 o'clock, I believe.
Sir, are you concerned at all about secret nuclear sites in Iran? You talked about maybe just
Secret nuclear site?
Yes, that there might be some of
Not
those known
really.
later.
Can I tell you? They're exhausted. And Israel's exhausted too. And I dealt with both of them. And they both wanted it settled, both of them. And we did a great job, but they're exhausted. The last thing they're thinking about right now is nuclear. You know what they're thinking of? They're thinking about tomorrow, trying to live. It's such a mess. It's such a mess. The place was bombed to hell. And no, I'm not worried about it at all. And I'm putting out a little statement. I'm going to respond to the Ayatollah's statement yesterday that we won the war. Oh, God, we won the war. And I said, look, you're
It's
a man
delusional.
of great faith, a man who's highly respected in his country. You have to tell the truth. You got beat to hell. And Israel was beat up too. They were both beat up. And it was a great time to end it. It was quick. They got the hate out. There was a lot of hate. A lot of hate. It would be great if they didn't have that hate. But the last thing they're thinking about is nuclear weapons right now. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Iris Howe with NTD Research Media with the Epoch Times. Thank you so
Good.
much for doing this. It's
Epic
very
Times.
refreshing for all of us here
It's a good
in
group.
this room.
It's refreshing.
Very refreshing. Yes, we haven't
Probably.
had this in, for the
I understand what you mean.
So thank you so much for coming out here.
Other
to talk
than
to
Caroline's done a great job.
Yes,
You're referring to the past administration,
Yes,
not to
yes.
Caroline, right?
Yes. Back to the ruling today, if you don't mind. So you have always talked about winning for the American people.
Right.
How do you think today's ruling will enable you to further deliver for American families and workers across the country, not only when it comes to immigration, but also when it comes to trade, energy? What actions are most eager to move forward
Well, I
with
think
now?
taking power away from these
Judges.
absolutely crazy radical left judges is a tremendous, this is such a big day. This is such a big day. It's like, it's sort of sad because we're doing the signing at 3 o'clock, and this may very well dominate the signing of a big war that was going on and really affecting the continent of, think of it, the entire continent of Africa was being affected, and we're settling that war today, and this will probably be a headline. But this is a very big moment, and it gives power back to people that should have it, including Congress, including the presidency.
All
And
presidents.
It only takes bad power away from judges. It really doesn't take power. It takes bad power.
It restores
sick
the
power,
Constitution.
and unfair power. And
it
it's
stops
really
legislating from the bench.
It's a very monumental decision. Yeah, please.
Yes, President, thanks very much. On July 9th, is that July 9th date set for tariffs to snap
No.
back? Or could there be a...
We can do whatever we want. We could extend it. We could make it shorter. I'd like to make it shorter. I'd like to just send letters out to everybody. Congratulations, you're paying 25%. He doesn't want. He's a much nicer person than I am. Go ahead. You finish it up.
Were you considering for the Federal Reserve then? And are you speeding up that process? I see Secretary.
Oh, he's terrible. He's terrible. I mean, I have a list of things. We're like 38 on the list. We pay, Cameroon and different places are paying the same as us. Because, you have somebody sets a rate at 4% or 4.5%. It's hard
She's
to go
sitting
out
on
and
the
say,
side.
we should be paying 1% when you have your so-called experts doing that. And the sad part is, as per the question that you asked about tariffs, we've had the tariffs and we have less inflation than we had before. What we have is a hell of a lot more money, a hell of a lot more income, and we shouldn't be paying a rate like that. In
And
other
companies
words,
are coming back to
when we pay a
manufacture
rate,
here.
I'll tell you, each point is the equivalent of $300 billion.
Yep.
So if we had it down 3 points, because I think we should be at 1, you have Switzerland is at 0.25.
No, they're at 0. They just lowered it to
25%
0.
of 1%. And they're the number 1 right now. But we should be the number 1. And soon you're going to have, I think.
Oh, his
you're gonna
mic
have
went
where
out.
the people will pay will pay like we had a few years ago, where you put up money, you loan money, and you actually, instead of paying, you get paid.
There it is. It came
I
back.
love that. I don't know if it's any good, but I love it, where you put up money and you get paid. But we should be in a category, so we should be at the top of the list, not toward the bottom of the list.
Yep.
But we have a man who's not a smart man, and he probably has Trump derangement syndrome. And he's just not a smart person. What he's doing, though, he's hurting us for years to come.
He's talking about the
Because
chairman
if we
of the
borrow
Federal Reserve,
money at 2
Jerome
points
Powell.
higher than we should be paying, that's $600 billion. Wouldn't you say those numbers are about right, Scott? So it's 2 points would be about 600, actually more than that, but about $600 billion. All because the guy doesn't want to lower the rates. He's doing the service a very disservice, and then he goes up and talks about, I'd like to see costs come down. He gets up and he does his little thing for 5 minutes, and he goes out and he goes back to the beach. He goes, I'd like to see
the
costs
beach.
come down. Well, he could lower the interest cost by $900 billion a year. All he has to do is lower rates. And everybody's saying, I was watching some of the business shows today, and they're saying, Trump's right. He should really be cutting. The country's doing well. We have no inflation. Now, despite him, we're doing great. But if we got the rates down, we would be a rocket ship.
We'd have
So I
some
think
inflation
that'll
if
be
the
it.
rates go
And
down
I
then.
just want to thank everybody. This is a really big day. We've had a big week. We've had a big week. We've had a lot of victories this week. NATO was a tremendous victory.
Yep. Yeah.
The war was a tremendous. Look, we were talking about this for 30 years, about Iran being nuclear. And all I said is it will not be nuclear, and it's not going to be nuclear. And I want to give credit to a lot of people, and most importantly to our great military. Boy, they put out that fire. Once that happened, once those bombs got dropped, that war was over. That war was over. But I just want to compliment them. Incredible. The general and all of his generals. Pete Hegseth was great. They were all. And now I want to compliment Pam. A lot of genius went into this. People, if you don't say it exactly right, if the Supreme Court doesn't get it because it's incorrectly spoken about, and that happens. A lot of cases are lost because they don't say the right words. But I want to correct. She's going to go down as a great attorney general.
Yeah.
I may change my mind about that. I don't know. Maybe someday I'll have to call and say I was only kidding. She's going to go down as a great attorney general. This was a tremendous win, and we've had tremendous wins, but this was a tremendous win today. So I just want to congratulate you and Todd and your whole staff. Very brilliant people. And we can't forget John Sauer, who is with, there's a medical emergency within his family, so he's taking care of that. And we said absolutely. So I just want to thank everybody very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
So there you go, folks. That's Donald Trump. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, so there was a Rubio conference going on too. Let me check on it. And then at 3 o'clock, I'm not going to stay live for the 3 o'clock, but I will check in on that a little bit later. Secretary Rubio host the Democratic Republic. No. When did it happen?
Say former colleagues, it wasn't.
Here we go. All right, so we're going to cover that now, too. This is Rubio. He's got this going on. He's got to compete with Trump. And then at 3 p.m., they're going to be in the White House for the signatures. This is pretty cool stuff. So it has been a huge week for Trump, ending the war, Iran, Israel, defeating Iran's nuclear capability, convincing NATO nations to increase defense spending to 5%. They'll never get there, but they've agreed to it. And then this huge win in the Supreme Court, overriding the rogue judges from the circuit courts, legislating from the bench. Unbelievable, folks. Yep. So this is what we got coming up here. Just a second. Here we go. So Marco Rubio now at a press conference at the Department of State.
Please join me in welcoming Secretary Rubio, Foreign Minister Wagner, and Foreign Minister Nduhungireyi.
Colin Powell's painting on the wall there. Rubio's saying, sit down, sit down. The rest of you can sit down now, too. Thank you.
Secretary Rubio, Foreign Minister Wagner, Foreign Minister Nduhungireyi, Minister of State Al-Khulaifi, African Union Chairperson Yusuf, Foreign Minister Dusay, ambassadors, members of Congress, distinguished guests, members of the media.
Okay, get past the protocol. All protocol observed.
Thank you for joining for the historic signing of a comprehensive peace agreement between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Rwanda. In a moment, Secretary Rubio and the foreign ministers of the DRC and Rwanda will sign an agreement that builds on the Declaration of Principles signed here on April 25th. With their signatures, the peace agreement will enter into force, bringing an end to a 30-year conflict and setting both countries and their people on a path towards peace and prosperity.
Looks like they're going to sign it here, not at 3 o'clock.
This would not be possible without the leadership and vision of President Trump. He has made peace a priority of his administration, and we have taken up his call to find a peaceful resolution to this conflict. I would like to recognize the tireless work that both foreign ministers and their teams put into reaching this agreement. I would also like to recognize the partnership from the government of Qatar, who is driving towards a parallel agreement between the government of the DRC and the M23 armed group. In addition, I would like to acknowledge that the work done under the auspices of the African Union was critical for reaching this agreement. We look forward to coordinating with the AU chairperson and Togolese president, who is serving as the AU facilitator, to ensure implementation of the agreement. Finally, I would like to recognize the team here at the Department of State who facilitated the discussions and helped guide both sides towards this agreement. I will now turn to Secretary Rubio for opening remarks.
Thank you, and I'm honored all of you are here today. I'm honored to be joined by my counterparts from the Democratic Republic of Congo and from Rwanda, and the hard work you both put in to make this happen. This was not easy, and there's still work to be done, obviously, in terms of implementation, but we're very honored you're both here, and it's been an honor to work with both of you. We have a lot of people to thank. Obviously, the great team here at the Department of State who did a great job, Mr. Boulos who did a phenomenal job, He's been on the job now about 10 weeks, and he's jumped all over this and really worked it hard, and you did a great job, and we are grateful to you for all of your work. Obviously, this could not have happened without such close friends and partners in the African Union and in Qatar, who we're working a lot lately with Qatar. We're doing a lot of things with you guys, and you've been very instrumental in the African Union. Without you, this couldn't have happened. I mean, you may put everybody together. I do want to recognize.
I disagree.
What I say.
African Union didn't get peace in 25 years.
But they're here now, Senators Rounds and Risch. Senator Risch is the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee and a very close friend of mine, and he's obviously watched this issue very closely. He's made it a priority. And Senator Rounds has been talking to me about this before I was even nominated to the position and even during the nomination process. And we have a...
Yeah, I don't agree with Secretary Rubio. The African Union has had 25 years to resolve this conflict in Rwanda and the DRC, and they've moved the needle not at all. Trump's moved it. So he's just being diplomatic, thanking them. Daryl Matotis, your question was fine. One of my moderators deleted it. Wasn't necessary to delete it. If I'm not answering questions, I won't answer them. We do have a Sunday refugee session. You can join in, but you can ask your questions here. It's fine. Mods, you don't have to delete it unless people are posting the question over and over again trying to get attention. But no problem. Please, let's not chase people away. There are enough people that are pissing and moaning about the program. Yeah, he's being diplomatic, Diane. But the African Union had no impact on this. We accomplished this without the African Union.
And there are other
like
places
most
that
things.
We want to see this, but we're very excited about this, and we can't wait to have the heads of state, the presidents of the respective countries here in Washington in a few weeks to finalize the complete protocol and agreement. But today is an important step in that direction, and we're
You're welcome,
grateful to
LBR.
be able to host it here at the Department of State. And just thinking, we think sometimes about peace. It's not just about ending wars. It's not just about saving lives. It's about allowing people to live. It's about allowing people to now have dreams and hopes for a better life, for prosperity, for economic opportunity, for family reunification, for all the things that make life worth living. Those things become impossible when there's war and when there's conflict. So We're grateful to have played the role we've played. We acknowledge and recognize there's still more work to be done.
Yep.
But we thank you all very much for being a part of this historic and important day. This is really why I wanted this job, or why I embraced this job so much, is moments like this. This is, in essence, the Department of State is really the Department of Peace. It's designed to bring people together, both in our relations with other countries, but to the extent we can use the stature and the influence of the United States to bring others together. It makes the world a better place. And I honestly believe that when there's peace in the world among friends who may have disagreements and conflict, it does help America. It does help make America stronger and safer and more prosperous. It gives us partners we can do business with. And partners that we can work with to address insecurity and threats to our national security.
All right, let's get to the signatures.
Security. So we are grateful to both of you. I know how hard this was and how much work went into it.
I hope they don't get to talk.
There's more work to be done. But we are grateful to have you here today. We're honored to be a part of this. We're excited to be a part of it. And again, I do want to thank everyone here in our Africa Bureau and at the Department of State. And once again, our superstar there, Mr. Boulos. What do you want to do next after you're done with this? Sudan. Yeah, very important. Actually, very, very important. And you're very involved in that as well. So what are you guys doing this week in Qatar? You guys want to work a little? We are grateful to all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I now turn to the Foreign Minister of Rwanda for remarks.
Hopefully he doesn't have a novel here.
Thank you. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Minister Therese Kaikwamba-Wagner,
This mic is not on.
Commission Mahmoud Yusuf, Minister of State Mohamed Ali Oulaifi of Qatar, my colleague Minister of Foreign Affairs of Togo, Robert Dussé.
Now it's on.
Senators, dear colleagues, good afternoon. Let me begin by expressing our sincere appreciation to President Donald Trump for his personal engagement in facilitating this historic agreement. We also extend our gratitude to the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, Special Advisor Masad Boulos, and the entire State Department team. Your dedication has been indispensable. This agreement is the product of months of coordinated efforts by multiple actors. It is very important to note that the state of Qatar has played an absolutely central role. Indeed, the opening, which led to today's agreement, began in Doha. We will lend our full support in the weeks ahead to Qatar's mediation efforts led by Minister of State Mohamed Al-Khulaifi, to secure a peace agreement between the DRC government and the AFC M23. This process is already well underway. Today's agreement also builds on the African-led peace initiatives, which are ably led by the African Union facilitator, President Faure Gnassingbé of Togo. The heart of this peace agreement is the decision to establish a standing joint security coordination mechanism between DRC and Rwanda. The first order of business is to begin implementing of the concept of operations for the neutralization of the FDLR, to be accompanied by a lifting of Rwanda's defensive measures. This is grounded in the commitment made here for an irreversible and verifiable end to state support for FDLR and associated militias. That is the bedrock of peace and security in our region. FDLR is no ordinary militia. It is the remnant of the forces which committed the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994, in which 1 million people were killed. With this agreement, we also committed to facilitate the return of refugees in our respective territories with the support of the UNHCR. Creating the conditions for the safe and dignified return of refugees is vital to achieve lasting peace. We also took to enhance economic cooperation, including with American companies and investors. Shared growth and cross-border cooperation will unlock tangible dividends for both our countries. We must acknowledge that there is a great deal of uncertainty in our region and beyond, because many previous agreements have not been implemented. And there is no doubt
well, this is going to be a novel.
It will not be easy. But with the continued support of the United States and other partners, we believe that a turning point has been reached. Rwanda stands ready to work with the DRC to deliver on our joint commitments. To conclude, allow me to once again express Rwanda's appreciation to all who have contributed to this milestone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. I now turn to the Foreign Minister of the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Mr. Secretary of State, the Honorable Senator Marco Rubio, Dr. Massad Boulos, Senior Advisor for African Affairs, His Excellency Mr. Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Mr. Olivier Nduhungirehe, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Dr. Mohamed bin Abdulaziz Khulaifi, Minister of State at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the State of Qatar, His Excellency Mr. Robert Dussé, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Togo, Senators, Excellencies, distinguished guests, and to all Congolese citizens following this movement, wherever you may be. 2 months ago in this very room, we signed a Declaration of Principles, a first tangible step to break with deadlock and chart a path towards peace. Today, that choice takes shape and sustained efforts have come to fruition. With this peace agreement, we open a new chapter, one that calls not only for commitment, but for the courage to see it through. By signing this agreement, we reaffirm a simple truth. Peace is a choice, but also a responsibility, to respect international law, to uphold human rights, and to protect the sovereignty of states. Those who have suffered the most are watching. They are expecting this agreement to be respected, and we cannot fail them. This agreement builds on the efforts of many. First and foremost, we want to express our sincere gratitude to His Excellency President Donald J. Trump for his commitment to this peace process. His leadership kept this process focused and goal-oriented, and that from day one. This was further characterized by the quality and resolve of the entire U.S. team, illustrated by the critical support of Senator Rubio and Dr. Boulos. We salute His Excellency President Félix-Antoine Tshisekedi Chilombo for choosing the harder path, a peace rooted in principle and in the dignity of our people. We thank President João Lourenço of Angola, facilitator of the Rwanda process, for laying critical foundations. We are also grateful to the State of Qatar and to His Highness the Emir, whose leadership was instrumental in convening the first direct meeting between our two heads of states in March, a courageous step that laid the groundwork for dialogue. Qatar has since facilitated further talks in Doha and remained a principled and steady partner throughout this peace effort. The African Union, through its chairperson and the appointed facilitator, His Excellency Faure Gnassingbé of Togo, have anchored this process in African ownership. Finally, we thank the negotiating team of both the DRC and Rwanda for their perseverance and devotion. This moment has been long in coming. It will not erase the pain, but it can begin to restore what conflict has robbed many women, men, and children of: safety, dignity, and a sense of future.
Yep.
For the Great Lakes region, it offers a rare chance to turn the page, not just with words, but with real change on the ground. Some wounds will heal, but they will never fully disappear. They may grow over, but the skin will forever remain thin and frail, and deep down, the flesh will still remember. At times we will feel numb, and at others we will feel a sudden pang that will remind us of what was lost forever. The scars we carry on our bodies and in our souls will remind us of what must never be forgotten, repeated, or accepted. A few days ago in Kinshasa, a coalition of women's organizations shared a clear message with me.
Yeah, good point, Vernie.
Nous ne voulons pas d'une paix d'élite. Nous voulons une paix réelle, vécue, partagée et construite avec nous. We do not want a peace shaped by elites. We want a peace that is real, lived, shared, and built with us. To our fellow citizens in the East, this agreement was signed with you in mind. It provides for the disengagement of armed forces, the protection of civilians, the return of displaced persons and of refugees under government authority, and establishes a follow-up mechanism to ensure compliance. These are not just words on paper.
French.
They must now be translated into action with justice, accountability, and political will. This peace agreement is the starting point, not the end goal. It must now be followed by disengagement, justice, and the return of displaced families, and the return of refugees, both to the DRC and Rwanda.
Yep.
However, no text, however carefully negotiated, can carry on its own the weight of peace. I still remember, on the day we signed the Declaration of Principles, a member of the US team said, "If it were easy, it would have been done a long time ago."
Yep.
That holds true now more than ever. What we have signed is only as strong as our will to implement it. We, the DRC, will certainly and resolutely fight for this agreement to be respected, not with our words, but with our deeds. Today, we have chosen peace. What matters now is that we protect it and prove to our people and to the world that even in a region marked by deep scars, dignity and cooperation can prevail. So now, our work truly begins. Thank you.
That's a good speech. Good speech.
Thank you, Madam Minister. It's now my honor to invite the parties to sign the peace agreement to be witnessed by Secretary Rubio.
There we go.
The agreement being signed includes provisions on the respect for territorial integrity and the prohibition. The full text of the concept of operations of the harmonized plan.
They screwed that up. All you had to do was slide everything right.
The FDLR and disengagement of forces / lifting of defensive measures by Rwanda, which was agreed to under the auspices of the Rwanda process on October 31st, 2024, and adopted by the foreign ministers on November 25, 2024. With the parties' signatures today, the agreement immediately enters into force. Thank you very much. Congratulations. This concludes the proceedings.
Wow, folks, impressive. Check it out. There you go. So we've seen the peace agreement signed. Wow, between Rwanda and the DRC. What a big day for President Trump. What a big day for Secretary Rubio. What a big day. What I can say is that who's not present? Ronnie Lamola. And who's not present? Cyril Ramaphosa. Neither of whom are present in that peace assembly at the State Department. The African National Congress likes to consider itself important player in the world and a peacemaker, claiming to have brought peace to Ukraine, never happened, claiming to have brought peace to much of Africa as an interloper, constantly calling America an interloper because we do peacekeeping or we do change to fix things. But the ANC has interloped into the Central African Republic and accomplished nothing. They've been interlopers in the DRC. Now that the SADC mission has left the DRC, now we have peace. Now that the interloper nations of Zimbabwe, Namibia, South Africa are no longer in the Congo, we can actually go forward with an effort to have peace now and have a peace agreement. It's no coincidence that the interference of South Africa no longer taking place in the DRC, and we have parties signing up for a peace agreement, and we have an agreement today. In addition to that, South Africa's been interlopers in Lesotho, invading it twice in Operation Boleas 1 and Boleas 2. They've invaded and interfered in the affairs of Comoros on 3 occasions. They have sent occupation troops to Burundi for a number of years, and then a VIP protection unit was there for a long time. They've sent observers. They've interfered in the affairs of Cote d'Ivoire, Ethiopia, Eritrea. Yes, this is the history of the African National Congress, who fancy themselves as peacemakers. They have not caused peace in anywhere. And let's not forget that it was the South African president screaming for the West, the United States, intervene in Libya when Gaddafi was murdering innocent civilians. And when NATO intervened, then South Africa betrayed the United States and NATO and screamed about colonialism intervention, because they didn't think the U.S. would actually intervene. They just wanted the threat of that so Gaddafi would stop murdering citizens. But they got more than they thought. So this is the true history of the African National Congress. This is the true history of the African National Congress, one that they like to pretend is not true, but it is true. Be sure to hit the like button, folks, if you don't mind. Appreciate you being here. Thanks to everyone who's given a super chat in this stream. We don't need to see the treaty signed with Trump at 3 p.m. because we just saw it signed, so that's going to take care of that. Also, I produced a number of other videos today, at least 4 that are up on the channel. I think they're doing it for profit and also for, self-aggrandizement. Yeah. So, who was not in that room? The African National Congress. Durko wasn't there. Durko, suddenly Ronnie Lamola, searching for relevance, is talking about the crisis in Sudan. Someone gave him a briefing card telling him that millions of people in displaced Sudan is in trouble. There's something needs to be done. He was giving his briefing card and went in front of the cameras. And of course, he danced like this because he was nervous, because like a little schoolboy, who had to wet his pants because he had to go to the bathroom because he didn't know what he was talking about. Typical Ronnie Lamola. Failed justice minister, failed foreign minister. Yeah, there's nothing to gain here, so they've walked away, and now they've left it for America to clean up the mess again. But they'll call us interlopers and imperialist and colonialist and all the other lies about America while we fix things. Again, someone point out here, Donald Trump has not been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Yet the Abraham Accords alone should have been justification. They nominated Barack Hussein Obama for the Nobel Peace Prize, and he promptly started wars. He started multiple wars. And he led his failed foreign policy and naivete led to over 1 million people dying in the Middle East because of him. Yeah. So, wow. Anyway, but it's been a huge week for President Trump. All props. I mean, I don't know what happened. Have they kicked most of the fake news media people out of there? Because that was really a rah-rah session press conference. The questions, even from the legacy media, weren't even rude or disrespectful. They asked Trump, and there were clearly some rah-rah journalists in there, alternative media folks who were asking questions. But it's much nicer than what we usually see. But I prefer that they remain objective and not rah-rah. But what a week for President Trump. They bombed Iran, destroyed its nuclear production capacity, and brought them to the table, forcing a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, ending that war. Trump ends that war today. Now, these wars can break out again. Don't come back later and say, Chris, you said the war was over. Look, we're talking about protagonists that have a lot at stake here, and it could easily go right back to force of arms. But nonetheless, ceasefire between Iran and Israel, a peace treaty between Rwanda and the DRC this week. In addition to that, Trump went to NATO and convinced the NATO members to agree to 5% spending on GDP for national defense. That's $1 trillion of additional defense spending. Now, I don't think they're ever going to reach that stage, including the U.S. We can't afford to spend 5% of our GDP. That's a fortune. It's a fortune. But it's an objective. And the objective 14 years ago was 2%. And until recently, over half the NATO countries were still failing at that. So 5% for NATO, and this massive landmark decision from the Supreme Court of the United States that stops the legislating from the bench of rogue, corrupt federal circuit court judges who don't like what Donald Trump has to say, so they put an injunction. They lack the legal authority under the Constitution. They lack the legal authority under the separation of powers to do such things, these universal injunctions, and they invalidate the rights of American citizens under the Constitution by granting rights to people who aren't even Americans all over the globe with their stupid injunctions. They have been overruled. They've been thrown out. And now, next up is birthright citizenship will be ejected for the anchor babies, and we will get this country back on track to where it belongs. And the journalist asked a question about, whether it's harming the courts or something like that, and Trump hit it spot on. This simply restores the Constitution. That's what it does, because the courts have illegally, unlawfully infringed upon the power of the executive branch. They do not have that power to do that, and they have been doing it. Only the Supreme Court can do that because it has a check and balance. The federal circuit courts do not have a check and balance against the chief executive in a universal manner. Only in something that applies where they're at. Nick Groves, 35 Rand. Lamola is only on about South Sudan because the ANCs are buddies with Omar al-Bashir. But they haven't been on about South Sudan at all. They're looking for relevancy today because Donald Trump is overshadowing them. And once again, and so Trump doesn't pay any attention to Africa, and he's just negotiated a peace deal. Obama loved Africa, right? Did he negotiate any peace deals? No. Obama started wars. Obama got us involved all over Africa. Obama got us back into Somalia. Yeah. Put troops back in Somalia. Obama got us into Niger, into Mali with troops, into Mauritania with troops. Yeah. Yeah. Did he end any wars? No, he didn't end any wars. Yep. A few weeks ago, peace between... That's right. He also negotiated peace, at least a temporary, between Pakistan and India. I forgot about that. Trump should already have a Nobel Peace Prize. How many more peace agreements does he have to get before he gets respect? Francesca Harbor, it's been a while, but thank you for the $20 super chat. Good to see you there. How will birthright citizenship affect non-anchor babies? It won't affect anyway. If you're born here of illegal parents. So probably what they'll have to do at some point going forward is they'll require that you just provide evidence your parents are citizens or something like that, or at least one of your parents. Or they're legally here. Now Fauci and Gates must be arrested. That all has to be sorted out by the courts. We can't predict how they're going to decide on that. And it isn't one yet. So we'll see. Fauci and Gates must be arrested for the atrocities in West Africa. I don't know what atrocities they've committed in West Africa, but I know that Fauci should be arrested for his fraud and what he's been doing against the United States for decades. The guy is a fool, and he's always been a fool, but he became very famous. He has a $500,000 a year pension. I mean, that's over twice the highest amount that any federal employee can be paid, except for the president, vice president. And he is still getting that because of the status they gave him. Such nonsense. Yep. All right, what else we got here? Trump deserves a day off. He deserves a break, that's for sure. Herman Lombard, hello. Navy mom spent more time learning about the countries where my son was stationed, so much to learn about the continent of Africa. This channel has given me an opportunity to learn. Okay, cool. Navy mom. Willow, the clowns were not invited. Entertainment was not needed. Also, that's why the ANC's not there. When visiting the USA, people cannot fathom that we are white, although we are South Africans. Well, some people are. It's not everybody. Some people know better. Yeah, that's because they're not taught about Africa in school. It wasn't a priority. Correct terminology. What's terminology? What did Alt say? Before you say that's correct terminology, I want to see what it was. Anyway, guys, wow, what an epic day so far. So, yep. Yeah, so let me take a look at what's going on over here with the videos I did earlier. I just want to cover that real quick before we wrap up here. The apology from the U.S., which didn't happen, is at 38,000 now. Keep it going, folks. Keep it going. It's dropping. It was 11,000 per hour, then 9, then 8, then 7. Now it's 5,000 per hour. But if we keep 5,000 per hour now for another 3 or 4 hours, that would get us up there. So that one's that's doing all right. Then the shocking drama about the deputy minister being sacked, that's 10,000. Not so great. I like my cartoon that I made, Your Move But. And then the last one there, only 3,900. That's not doing so great. And then the last one I did, which was about refugees, only has 1,900. I'm surprised. A lot of people are asking me about this question about refugees, so I answered it. What it was is that the embassy in South Africa posted a notice that if you're getting an MJ or F visa, you have to open your social media for that. And the refugees like, well, we have to open our social media? No, an MJ and F, that has to do with education. You're not getting an education visa. Peace Prize will go to the woke, exactly. Did you see Gayton's racist tweet about Andrew Whitfield? I did not. Oh, I'm going to go there now. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Let me go there. Let me go to Gate McKenzie. Wow. Let's see what he's got to say. Gives praise to God. Mandela, thanks to Pinar. Wow, that is racist. White privilege makes you think you don't need permission as a minister to travel and called out and action taken. Same white privilege will point to matters has nothing to do with seeking permission. We're about traveling protocols during induction and no one protested. Wow. Wow. Luda continues, says, did you know that Gate McKenzie, an employee of ours, allegedly spent $800,000 on Olympics trip and $4.8 million on travel, including $450,000. No, the thing is, he never ceases to revert to race hustling whenever he gets a chance. Black privilege makes you think that being a bank robber automatically qualifies you as a minister, somebody wrote. Ouch. Yeah, here you go. Oh, thank you so much for this, Simon Gringold. This is brilliant. In September 2020, Defense Minister Mapisi Nakula, remember that, flew to Zimbabwe on an Air Force plane without the permission of Ramaphosa. He granted her permission after she came back. Thank you for reminding people of that. I got to make a video about that. Yep. That's brilliant. I forgot to, earlier this morning, I made a note of that, but I forgot to make a video about that. I got so busy with the other videos. Exactly right. Hypocrisy, thy name is ANC. Wow. Yeah, why wait to fire him for 3 months? Because he's investigating the nonsense, the lotto. This is all BS. And McKenzie, shame on you, Gate McKenzie. Wow, that's disgraceful. Singing for your supper again. White privilege, the ability to suffer whatever life throws at you without blaming another ethnic group. I like that. Sorry, Gayton, I was starting to like you, but the moment you play the race card, you lose all respect. Are you implying that trips that Mashatili and his connected friends took all needed personal permission of the president, and he gave that? Thereby implicating the president directly. Wow. Yeah, wow. This is unbelievable. Yep. Wow. This is disgraceful. I better get a copy of this in case he takes it down before he takes it down. This is disgraceful. Man, oh man. Wow. Gate McKenzie, this is not good. Wow. Really stepped in it. Really stepped in it here. Man, oh man, oh man. That's... Yep. Wow. Yeah, Trump's got a good team behind him now for the most part. And people that I thought wouldn't perform well are doing well. Marco Rubio is performing much better as Secretary of State than I ever anticipated. Pete Hegseth is actually doing better, much better at Secretary of Defense than I expected. Podcasting's brilliant. One has thousands of investigative journalists finding the juice on the baddies. Yep. Sadly, as a brown South African, I'm embarrassed with our country's involvement in supposed peacekeeping missions in neighboring countries. So much of the country. Well, brown child, thank you for sharing that, but it shouldn't matter if it's you're brown. You should be embarrassed if you're white, you're black, or brown about their behavior. Yep. No, they fancy themselves as important in the world. That's why. South Africa's ANC thinks that South Africa is important, that it matters on the world stage. It once upon a time did. Sadly, that was during the apartheid era because of the Cold War, but it doesn't matter anymore. Oh, we terminate trade talks with Canada. Whoa. Oh, that's not good. It's all happening on Friday, folks. Wow. Yep, he did. A half hour ago. He must have walked out of that press conference and ended it right there. Wow. Threatens to set the tariff. My goodness, ladies and gentlemen. It's all happening on Friday. It's all happening on Friday. Friends and family only Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Let's get this one up on the screen really quickly here. Trump terminates trade talks with Canada. President posted on Truth Social that Canada had planned to put a tax on U.S. technology companies, calling the move a blatant attack. President Trump said Friday he'd terminate trade discussions with Canada, citing incoming Canadian tax on tech companies, including ones based in the U.S. Yep. We've just been informed that Canada a very difficult country to trade with, including the fact that they have charged our farmers as much as 400% tariff for years on dairy products, has just announced they are putting a digital services tax on American tech companies, which is a direct and blatant attack on our country. They're obviously copying the European Union, which has done the same thing. Based on this egregious tax, we are hereby terminating all discussions on trade with Canada. Woo-hoo! Wow. Wow. We will let Canada know the tariff that they will be paying to do business with the United States within the next 7 days. Oh, baby. Oh, it's all going on Friday, folks. It's friends and family only Friday. Fuck around and find out. Wow. 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 LBR, thank you for 14. Now, I guess I better go buy some maple syrup before it goes up. Let's see, what else do I need from Canada? I watch my hockey here, so I don't need to buy that from Canada. What do I need? Yeah. Wow. Boom. A hammer dropped. The Trumpster drops the hammer. Oh, my goodness. This is insane. The best of it is not all whites benefit from apartheid. What's that? Okay. I liked how Rubio turned towards the person who was speaking. It's a tiny gesture of decency. Yeah, it was very, very decent. Although they screwed up the signing. There's three things. All they had to do was sign it, shift right. And then the person at the end picks it up and takes it around. And it takes one trip instead of this back and forth. Boy, they obviously haven't done this before. I have. Yeah, darn proud of my president. Yep. It is firing Friday, man. It is all cylinders on. Man, I'll tell you what, we are hitting on all levels. FAFO Friday. What a day, what a day, what a day. It's unbelievable. FU Friday, that's a comedy trend. Let's do the host FU Friday show. Many had no choice where to stay. They were told where to stay by the National Party. That's true. No, we don't need any part of Canada as the U.S. state. Let Canada be Canada. Yep. Lizette Meyer. Publisher. Yes, because you guys called Rubio a neocon before all this. I didn't call Rubio a neocon. I said I wasn't convinced he'd do a good job, but I never called him a neocon. He's been as a senator. Wow. Yeah, this is much better than Trump's first term. First term was embarrassing how bad it was. Wow. This is crazy, man. It just keeps coming. His very own bugger off bunny, exactly. Yep, exactly. 50 Cent was offered Zoran Mandami, turned 50,000, a first class ticket to leave New York. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, oh, there you go. So, all right, that's another thing I got to talk about. I got to talk about that, man. Oh my goodness, that's so I got to make notes here of the things I got to make these videos on because I keep forgetting the videos I want to make it on. Yeah. Okay, and then, yep, and then, wow. Canadians have really pissed Trump off, and they're stupid. They should have voted for a conservative government. Then they wouldn't be in this boat. Canada thing, Colonel, please, disappoint. I'm thrilled. The woke-tard Canadians who've been allowing illegals to go to their country so they can slip into our country, trying to destination shop and flooding our country, they're getting what they deserve. We've shut that pipeline down. Now they're stuck with all the Pakistanis and the Bangladeshis and the Indians that they don't want, who don't have degrees, that they're trying to force on us. Yep. I'm thrilled. And the Canadians have been ripping us off for decades. Yep. Even under the U.S.-Mexican agreement, it wasn't the best. NAFTA was terrible. Yep. That's my thoughts on it. 3 posts from Trump in the last hour. Okay, I didn't see the rest. Let me go to Trump and see what they are. Okay, after many years of decline, our air traffic control system, one big beautiful bill modernize this decrepit relic and give America. Okay, Republicans just informed Canada. Very difficult. Okay. So-called Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei said so blatantly foolishly that he won the war with Israel when he knows his statement's a lie. It's not so. Ah, man. Wow. Man. Yeah, these judges were out in front of their skis. They really were. Canada, man. They're in trouble now. They're in trouble, the Canadians, man. They have to rethink their approach. Very bad move on their part. Wow. Exciting stuff, folks. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. Thank goodness on November 5th we saved America and the world. Yep, we sure did. Wow. Donald John Trump. Getting it done. All right, woke virus confirmed in Canada. Yep, Vernon, no, you don't need a visa to go from the U.S. No, who said we need a visa? We don't need a visa. Yep. Phenomenal viewing, absolutely gripping and thrilling, a superb ending to a historic week. Exactly, Twinkle Stardust. Anyway, over 100 Iranians have been detained in USA. Oh, and Trump just suspended, I think he suspended the temporary protected status for 500,000 Haitians. They have to go too. Yeah, Trudeau left a long time ago. All right, so folks, we're going to wrap it up here, okay? Just short of 2.5 hours. And I got to go make some more videos now. I got to make at least 2 more videos. So, yeah, wow, that was a much nicer press conference than we've seen in the past, yeah. All right, now he's letting Hegseth be the tag dog in these things. He doesn't have to do it. All right, folks, thanks for being here. Be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done already. Thank you all for the super chats, for the 23 new members, of those are renewed. Thank you so much. And don't forget, tomorrow on Rugby Ascendant, it's Springboks versus the Barbarians, right on Rugby Ascendant. So I'll see you on there. I might see you here. More videos produced. Hopefully you'll watch those. Thanks a lot. Yeah, for those in South Africa, it's evening time. Lekker slap for you guys. Have a good evening. You know, that just doesn't sound right when you say it. A person doesn't speak Afrikaans. Lekker slap. It just doesn't sound right, man. It sounds like licky. Lekker slap. Anyway, have a good night, folks. Ciao is spelled C-I-A-O in Italian. C-I-A-O. Ciao. Ciao. Mensa. All right. Fantastic. Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.